The grand arena of the League of Streaming is absolutely exploding as tens of millions of hyped fans cheer on the ultimate esports tournament. Between diehard supporters holding banners for the strongest gamer and literal Galaxy Brain fans judging matches purely by sound, the energy inside this stadium is completely off the charts. Taking center stage under blinding spotlights, player Shin Hyeon proudly lifts the championship trophies as the undisputed winner of the entire league. With unreal reaction speed that slices through split seconds and intuition that borders on pure magic, she completely dominated the leaderboard and carved her name into gaming history. Whether casting high-tier spells, tanking damage in heavy knight armor, or slicing through foes with dual daggers, her physical prowess inside virtual reality was so ridiculous that no other player could imitate her combat style. She didn't just play the game, she basically rewrote the entire meta. After stepping out of her futuristic gaming pod to accept her Grand Championship award on stage, Hyeon officially wraps up her legendary amateur run. Now, the entire gaming world is holding its breath as she prepares to make her highly anticipated professional debut. Fast forward 6 whole years later, and we arrive at a towering glass skyscraper housing a top-tier tech corporation. Virtual reality capsule technology has advanced rapidly since those early tournament days, and inside this high-tech facility, a groundbreaking test is currently taking place. Deep inside the R&D center, laboratory director Oh Jae stands over a sleek prototype capsule as the heavy lid slides open. Her test subject slowly opens his eyes and blinks back to reality, completing his very first game session after years of being forced away from virtual reality. Our main guy Seojun stretches his arms and steps out of the pod, genuinely surprised that he isn't hit with his usual crippling dizziness. For someone who suffered from severe VR sickness in the past, feeling light on his feet and completely fine is an absolute game changer. Director Ji Ye presents the official specs and explains that their new capsule model utilizes state-of-the-art tech to maximize performance. This breakthrough allows even people with physical disabilities or low synchronization rates like Seojun to dive into virtual reality safely, provided they stick to their daily time limit. Completely sold on the experience, Seojun casually asks how much this high-tech pod actually costs. Director Ji Ye flashes a radiant corporate smile and drops a casual price tag of 1 billion won. Seojun immediately checks his bank account only to find a grand total of 458 won, leaving him just slightly short of his dream setup. Director Ji Ye isn't quite done with him yet, flashing a radiant corporate smile as she pitches a special business proposal to our broken-hearted main guy. She gently asks if Seojun is willing to hear her out, hinting at a secret opportunity that might just pull him right back into the virtual realm. Back when full-dive capsule technology first hit the commercial market, it took the entire world by storm. It wasn't just a shiny new gaming gadget, but a massive technological revolution that integrated virtual reality directly into modern industrial society, offering people a brand new way to live out their wildest personal fantasies. Among all the incredible professions and digital lifestyles available inside the virtual world, nothing captivated humanity quite like action-packed gaming. Plunging into high-stakes fantasy combat, executing dynamic weapon attacks, and battling terrifying boss monsters was an absolute thrill that young Seojun fell head over heels in love with. He wasn't just casually playing either. Seojun was an absolute virtual swordmaster who lived for the raw adrenaline of battle. Wielding dual flame-infused blades and darting past massive armor-clad bosses with unreal precision, he moved with the effortless brilliance of a seasoned combat veteran who had mastered every single sword technique in existence. While the rest of the world dove headfirst into the capsule crazy, Seojun's glory days came to a sudden, agonizing halt in under a year. His body unexpectedly collapsed inside the pod while crimson error screens flashed, revealing an abysmal 10% synchronization rate that violently rejected his full-dive connection. Riding the public bus home 6 years later, Seojun sulks in his seat while staring down at his phone screen in deep frustration. Remembering how much he loved gaming back then only makes his current broke reality hurt 10 times worse, leaving him wishing he had never tasted that thrilling digital life in the first place. As the bus cruises down the busy city street, a glaring advertisement banner on its side promotes an upcoming spectacle, an event match featuring South Korea's undefeated champion, Shin Hyeon. Staring out the window, our former sword prodigy can't help but wonder why the urge to play is suddenly once more. Later that night, back at his apartment, the living room television glows with high-octane coverage of the upcoming tournament. The broadcast announcers excitedly declare that South Korea's #1 gamer and first-ever league champion, Shin Hyeon, is set to make a super special guest appearance in a hyped event match against active pro players. Sprawled out on the floor with a bag of chips, Seojun's roommate and veteran streamer Kim Tae-woo is completely blown away by the broadcast's insane production scale. Hearing the wall-shattering noise from his bedroom, Seojun strolls into the room asking what's going on, only to be greeted by a very hyped-up Tae-woo. Sitting on the couch with his roommate, Seojun casually asks if the League of Streaming is really all that famous. Hearing such absolute sacrilege, Tae-woo immediately loses his mind and shrieks at Seojun for living under a rock, completely appalled that anyone could be this oblivious to modern gaming culture. Tae-woo proudly breaks down the eye-watering statistics, explaining that regular tournaments pull in over 1 million viewers in Korea alone and a staggering 15 million worldwide. Aside from pro leagues, it stands tall as the single largest and most prestigious streaming tournament on the entire planet. When Seojun asks what kinds of weapons contestants normally bring into the arena, Tae-woo explains that while rangers shoot high-tech bows and mages cast flashy elemental spells, nothing compares to the raw adrenaline and visual spectacle of close-quarters melee combat. In this league, a skilled swordmaster slicing through foes is still the ultimate crowd favorite. Staring up at the glowing broadcast screen, Seojun quietly contemplates the idea of picking up a blade once again, feeling an old familiar passion ignite deep inside. Tae-woo admits he tried wielding a sword last year only to get instantly eliminated, warning that building a massive follower count is required just to make a name. Seojun responds by smacking him on the back of the head, pointing out that any streamer can technically enter. An enraged Tae-woo screams that lower-tier streamers barely stand a chance of qualifying without established popularity, while Seojun nonchalantly picks his ear and completely tunes out his roomie's dramatic meltdown. Tae-woo suspiciously asks why Seojun is suddenly asking so many questions when he never cared about capsules or streaming before. But before he can answer, Seojun's phone buzzes with a private text message from director Oh Ji-ye, who is eagerly waiting for his response. Her corporate proposal is a total game changer. Since the upcoming tournament's grand prize features their revolutionary high-tech capsule, director Ji-hae offers to lend Seojun a prototype pod completely free of charge until the competition ends, provided he registers as an official participant. Snacking on potato chips back in the living room, Seojun casually drops the bomb that he's officially entering the League of Streaming. Tae-woo freezes mid-bite in utter disbelief, completely stunned to hear his broke roommate make such a bold and unexpected declaration. With a confident smirk, Seojun asks if his roomie thinks a former VR swordmaster wouldn't completely crush the competition. Tae-woo scoffs back, warning him that the league isn't some open mic night where random amateurs can just walk in and expect to win. Completely unfazed by his roommate's skepticism, Seojun glares forward with absolute focus, the sharp and unmistakable fire of an elite sword veteran burning brightly in his eyes as he prepares to make his grand comeback. Looking back on everything, Seojun finally understood the real reason he felt such an irresistible pull to dive back into capsule gaming. It was never just simple nostalgia or casual entertainment. He desperately craved to relive that breathtaking glory and supreme dominance he once enjoyed as an undisputed sword god. Vivid visions of his past life flood back, portraying him standing alone in a quiet bamboo grove dressed in traditional warrior robes. Surrounded on all sides by heavily armed enemies intent on taking his life, our low-key reincarnated master calmly reaches for his hilt with complete composure. In one fluid motion, he draws his steel and unleashes a blinding crimson arc, instantly cleaving through the entire mob of attackers in a single lethal spin. As quiet returns to the forest, he stands victorious above a field of vanquished foes, having completely annihilated the ambush without taking a single scratch. The astonishing secret behind his terrifying battle instincts and divine sword techniques is finally laid bare. Seojun retains full memories of his previous existence as a true sword god. Armed with centuries of martial wisdom, this ancient legend is now officially ready to conquer the modern gaming world once more. Under the glow of a bright full moon, a secret black market opens its doors to reveal the lowest product in its inventory. Locked in heavy iron chains and sitting at the very bottom of that dark world, this battered slave boy was actually our protagonist in his past life. Just when despair reached its peak, a formidable swordmaster carved straight through the captors. The warrior stood tall over the defeated guards as glowing petals drifted past the astonished child. Looking down with a warm smile, the master offered an open hand to the trembling boy, offering him a new life by asking if he would come along. If that master had not intervened at that exact turning point, the boy would have never been saved from despair or walked up those grand steps toward a brand new destiny. He would never have shouldered the heavy weight of supporting the righteous faction through endless jealousy and expectations, nor would the heroic sword god have ever made his mark on history. Back in modern times, our reincarnated sword god opens his eyes with a serene smile, reflecting that past titles do not matter anymore. That peaceful moment instantly vanishes when his roommate starts shouting, leading him to casually call his friend a lunatic to his face. The frantic roommate gestures toward a massive futuristic gaming capsule occupying half the bedroom space. He demands to know why anyone would purchase such an expensive pod just to play Land of Stars, warning that entry requirements are ridiculously strict. He explains that the game restricts entry exclusively to streamers who have already built up a massive following. Spinning around with dramatic energy, he asks if reaching that tier of online popularity is really as simple as taking a stroll in the park. To succeed, a streamer needs an endless gift of gab during mukbang broadcasts, godlike gaming skills, sharp social awareness, and enough humor to mock opponents while maintaining a polished image. Even after pulling all-nighters editing videos on a desk littered with empty energy drink cans, countless creators still end up streaming to literally zero viewers, while toxic chatters leave mean comments on their way out. When his dissatisfied roommate points out that he has never even set foot inside a virtual pod before, our former sword god remains completely unbothered. Turning around with absolute calm, Seojun casually asks if there isn't simply a way to dominate the entire game through sheer, unadulterated skill alone. Exasperated by his persistence, his roommate explains that raw talent only works if you can surpass Shin Hyeon, South Korea's undisputed top pro gamer who outshines actual celebrities. Unfazed by the legendary title, Seojun nonchalantly declares that he is already better than her anyway. Stunned by such outrageous confidence, the roommate decides it is time to deliver a severe reality check. He slaps open the pod door and throws down a high-stakes challenge, promising that if Seojun turns out to be better than him, he will gladly take over every single household chore. Hearing the glorious offer of permanent chore exemption, a broad grin spreads across Seojun's face as he instantly seals the deal. Without a single second of hesitation, our hero accepts the wager, eager to let his long-honed instincts do all the talking. The futuristic capsule lid smoothly glides shut, powering up its virtual reality systems as Seojun settles comfortably inside the pod. Even though content creation was a field he had zero interest in entering, he prepares to embark on this bizarre new digital frontier. With a fresh system interface displaying his name and a clean record of 0 total play hours, Seojun closes his eyes in quiet concentration. Adapting to the unknown may seem daunting, but conquering unfamiliar challenges is practically second nature to an ancient martial legend. He remembers the timeless wisdom of his past master, who once reminded him that everyone begins their journey clumsy and unrefined. If a warrior lets hesitation hold them back simply because a task is new, they will never accomplish anything meaningful in life. A sudden burst of radiant golden light floods his vision as the virtual world initializes and wraps around his consciousness. But when Seojun snaps his eyes open, the unexpected surroundings immediately catch him completely off guard. Instead of a futuristic sci-fi lobby, he finds himself waking up inside a sprawling traditional wooden pavilion bathed in soft sunlight. Taking in the magnificent ancient architecture around him, the former sword god can only marvel in confusion at where this game has just deposited him. Just as Seojun tries to make sense of the high-tech wooden pavilion, his roomie Taewoo spawns right beside him with a friendly greeting. He explains that this place is the practice grounds, a built-in offline training mode where players spar with AI to test their skills. When Seojun casually asks to spar with him directly, the self-proclaimed expert hands over a practice sword with a smirk. Claiming he cannot hold back without drawing blood, Taewoo tells him to prove his worth first by defeating their AI training bot. Taewoo brings up the game interface to explain its 10 difficulty stages, emphasizing that stage 10 mirrors the unbeatable 5-year streak of pro champion Shin Hyeon. But before he can finish warning him about stage 9, the selection window abruptly vanishes into thin air. Without wasting a single second reading the instruction manual, our impatient protagonist locks in his choice and starts the match. Sparks fly across the pavilion floor as a formidable humanoid combat bot materializes, unsheathing its weapon for immediate battle. As Taewoo frantically panics from the sidelines, asking if he foolishly skipped levels, Seojun simply assumes a loose, natural stance. Resting his practice blade comfortably in hand, our reincarnated legend looks more like he's going for a casual afternoon stroll than a deadly duel. The match countdown finishes ringing, and the mechanized warrior rockets across the polished wooden floor like an incoming missile. Closing the distance in the blink of an eye, the bot lunges forward with an aggressive overhead strike meant to crush any beginner. Instead of dodging in terror, Seojun effortlessly parries the heavy strike while keeping a relaxed smile on his face. Taewoo can only gawk in utter disbelief, watching his roommate deflect a high-level attack as easily as swatting away a mildly persistent fly. Refusing to back down, the AI opponent spins around and unleashes a furious barrage of continuous slashes. Radiant arcs of light slice through the air, but Seojun effortlessly sways around every single blade trajectory with surgical precision. Spotting a massive opening, our former sword god snaps his blade forward and unleashes a brilliant wave of glowing blue sword aura. The slash carves straight through the bot's chest armor, instantly chunking its health bar down to critical red. Sweat pouring down his face, Taewoo stares at the battle in absolute horror, wondering if the gaming pod is suffering from a massive system bug. Unbothered by his friend's mental breakdown, Seojun follows up with another devastating sweep of his sword to finish the job. Seojun unleashes a dizzying flurry of radiant blue strikes, carving straight through the high-level training bot's defenses with surgical precision. The devastating blow sends the glitched machine crashing onto the floor. Taewoo can only gawk with his jaw wide open as our hero steps over his defeated opponent. Looking down at the fallen AI, the reincarnated sword god flashes a calm smirk while digital glitches tear through the bot's crumbling frame. As the machine disintegrates into particles, a system window pops up to declare Seojun victorious, confirming he cleared Stage 9 in record time and rocketed to rank 107 globally. Taewoo panics in utter disbelief, but before he can process the shock, orange light streaks across the floor as the system immediately initializes the ultimate Stage 10 final battle. A sleek female combat bot materializes on stage, modeled directly after pro champion Shin Hyeon, leaving Taewoo in a cold sweat as he realizes what kind of monster he lives with. Unfazed by the legendary opponent standing before him, Seojun calmly tightens his grip on his practice blade, ready to secure a lifetime of free household chores. Back at the tech facility, the assistant grills the lab director for handing our broke protagonist a free VR capsule rental, insisting someone with his abysmal sync stats wouldn't even qualify for the league. The director just smiles, glancing over Jin Seojun's abysmal 10% synchronization file. She remembers his raw talent from years ago and notes how scarily much his skills have grown since. Looking at the empty rental bay, she smugly predicts that if Seojun manages to qualify for the tournament, taking total victory isn't just a fantasy. Inside the virtual arena, sword sparks fly as Seojun trades blows with an opponent modeled after top rankers, leaving his spectators sweating in absolute disbelief. Realizing this impossible duel is absolute gold for views, the brown-haired onlooker hits record, eager to stream every second as the metallic opponent launches a lethal overhead strike. Seojun effortlessly parries the powerful blue slash, sending the armored bot sliding across the wooden floor before immediately closing the distance without missing a beat. Recognizing the fighting style belongs to prodigy Shin Hyeon, Seojun admits her talent surpasses everyone from his past life, except for one legend, himself. As our reincarnated sword god nonchalantly flexes his inner ego mid-combat, his frantic spectator screams in sheer panic at his utterly absurd lack of focus. Just as the blade makes contact, our reincarnated master barely even flinches. Watching the strike land cleanly, his sweat-drenched spectator practically loses his mind in shock, questioning how anyone could possibly survive a hit from a high-level training bot modeled directly after prodigy Shin Hyeon. Instead of panicking over taking damage, Jin Seojun calmly inspects his side where a tiny -1 HP indicator floats in mid-air. Realizing that virtual reality completely eliminates physical pain and blood, he nonchalantly praises the virtual system like a casual gamer testing out a brand new capsule. The bewildered spectator stares in absolute disbelief, suddenly piecing together the ridiculous truth behind what just happened. When he anxiously asks if Seojun intentionally tanked a lethal sword blow just to test how damage feels in VR, our unbothered sword god shrugs and casually admits he was simply curious. Before the onlooker can fully digest that terrifying flex, the automated sparring partner reactivates its high-speed combat protocol, kicking up a massive cloud of dust across the wooden arena floor. The armored fighter lunges forward with relentless speed, leaping high into the air to unleash a heavy overhead strike. As the bot's crimson visor flashes menacingly mid-flight, Seojun tracks the incoming trajectory with complete composure. He raises his longsword at the last possible second, triggering a blinding explosion of golden sparks and heavy shockwaves as metallic blades violently clash together in mid-air. The raw impact of Seojun's defense rattles the machine to its very core, sending violent electrical surges flickering across its chassis. As the bot's visor glitches under the intense pressure, Seojun locks his sharp gaze onto his opponent, ready to take complete control of the duel. Refusing to back down, the mechanical opponent retaliates with a wide blue arc of sword energy. Seojun effortlessly counters with a sweeping kick beneath the incoming attack, knocking the bot completely off balance and sending it sliding across the polished wooden floor. A red warning indicator pops up displaying 4 points of damage dealt to the machine as it barely stabilizes itself on one knee. Standing completely relaxed with his sword resting low, Seojun coolly taunts his metallic adversary, asking why it suddenly stopped coming at him. Refusing to give his mechanical opponent a single moment to recover, our reincarnated sword god leaps high into the air. He drives his longsword downward with terrifying speed, launching an aggressive counterattack directly against the high-level training bot. Blinding sparks shower the wooden floor as steel violently clashes against steel in mid-air. The overwhelming force of Seojun's strike rattles straight through the machine's heavy chassis, locking both combatants in an intense high-speed power struggle. As his brown-haired spectator gapes in absolute disbelief, Seojun exerts raw strength and shatters the bot's heavy sword into flying fragments. The devastating blow sends the armored opponent hurtling backward through the air, leaving the machine completely disarmed and broken. Landing smoothly on his feet, Seojun wears a confident smirk as golden sunlight streams through the arena windows. He stands completely relaxed over his defeated sparring partner, lowering his blade while the battered machine slumps motionlessly onto the floor. Resting his long sword over his shoulder, our smug sword god coolly tells the bot that 80 more years of relentless training might finally let it beat him, just as digital glitch effects begin pixelating the machine's damaged frame. A glowing system window pops up to officially declare Seojun the victor of the sparring match. Watching the bot dissolve into light, his horrified spectator screams in shock, completely floored that anyone could actually defeat the legendary Shin Hyen program. With the system updating to show that ownership of level 10 has officially changed hands, Seojun stands casually with his hand tucked into his pocket, calmly wondering out loud if this victory proves he is ready to start streaming. The next day back at their apartment, Seojun happily plays the boss card by bossing his roommate around. He lounges around while complaining about Kim Tae-woo's cooking and assigning endless chores, leaving the poor guy sobbing over his tragic fate. Heading into his bedroom where his newly rented VR capsule stands ready, Seojun remembers setting up the game yesterday. Watching the cockpit open up with a soft glow, our reincarnated master gets ready to log in and begin his streaming journey. Closing his eyes inside the newly installed capsule, Seojun takes a deep breath as he logs into virtual reality for the very first time. A blinding flash of light surrounds him, signaling the system initialization of his personal account. Opening his eyes, our reincarnated sword god finds himself standing completely bewildered in the middle of a massive, featureless white room. He turns around in confusion, wondering what kind of strange digital realm he has just been transported into. A system notification pops up to explain that this empty environment is his personal streamer lobby, where popular creators design flashy room setups and interact directly with their audience. Looking around his completely hollow room, Seojun chin-strokes like a true frugal master, lazily deciding that fancy decorations can wait until after he starts making actual money. Activating the travel platform, the world's top game streaming service, Seojun scrolls past live broadcasts covering everything from high-speed racing to bizarre dating simulators. He sets his sights firmly on the top of the platform ladder, knowing he needs to build up serious streamer clout to earn an invitation to the prestigious LOS tournament. Turning his back to the platform menu, our ambitious protagonist officially selects the game that will launch his streaming career. The virtual sky transforms into a breathtaking nighttime skyline, revealing a sprawling medieval city glowing under the moonlight as pigeons flutter around towering Gothic cathedrals. The game, Dawn of the Assassins, is a massively popular stealth title set in the Middle Ages where players utilize extraordinary techniques to hunt down high-value targets. With over 2 million concurrent viewers on its release day and stellar reviews, Seojun decides this viral hit is the ultimate proving ground for a beginner streamer. High above the bustling city streets, dark shadows flicker across the towering stone clock tower. A heavy iron grappling hook cuts through the night sky with a violent whirring sound, slamming hard into the masonry ledge of the outer castle wall with perfect accuracy. Pushing off the stone wall, a shrouded assassin in a heavy brown hood vaults upward in one fluid motion, catching the top edge with a leather-gloved hand. As the virtual world sets the stage for high-stakes action, Seojun is ready to take the streaming world by storm. Landing gracefully atop the moonlit castle ramparts, the shrouded assassin stands tall and gazes out over the sprawling medieval city glittering below. With his dark cloak fluttering dramatically in the night breeze, our reincarnated master looks every bit like a legendary pro ready to pull off an epic stealth contract. Lowering his dark hood to reveal his signature confident smirk, Jin Seojun coolly asks if they should get started. With the system officially initiating his inaugural live broadcast, our smug sword god is finally ready to dominate the travel streaming platform and take his first steps toward gaming glory. Logging into the game world, our reincarnated swordmaster taps his interface menu to launch his very first live stream. He relies on a shamelessly clickbaity stream title, crafted by his self-proclaimed streaming senior friend Taewoo, who promised it would rake in massive viewer numbers by begging backseat gamers to guide a helpless newbie. Even though this is far from his first time playing a VR game, watching his character react to the environment makes him wonder if this ridiculous setup will actually work out. Standing high above on a castle balcony overlooking an ornate, lantern-lit city straight out of Victorian fantasy, he takes a moment to admire the sheer scale of the landscape. The bustling crowds moving through the streets below look unbelievably realistic, forcing him to admit that the game's visual presentation is top tier. Since he is stuck inside this unskippable tutorial cutscene intro anyway, our hero decides he might as well kick back, smile, and enjoy the high-budget cinematic ride. Heavy footsteps echo across the stone terrace as a stunning blonde NPC named Christina steps into view, her eyes locked onto Dane with intense gravity. She immediately hits him with a dramatic warning, cautioning that his upcoming assassination contract could very easily get him killed. But rather than flinching, Dane turns around with total composure and asks Christina when any of their high-stakes rogue missions were ever supposed to be safe, delivering his line like a true veteran assassin. Behind the digital avatar, our protagonist realizes the game auto-generates his character's dialogue and alters his voice to match the backstory of Dane from Dawn of the Assassination, Shadows in the City. Finding this automated lore delivery absolutely fascinating, he watches in awe as Dane drops an intensely edgy line, warning that anyone who intends to take a life must be fully prepared to lose their own, leaving Christina visibly startled by his grim determination. Christina nods in agreement but warns him to stay cautious, since their enemies might already be onto their movements. Dane smoothly pats her head with a reassuring smile, telling her not to worry and instructing her to go wait for him at the local tavern. Before taking her leave, she hands him a secret sealed envelope while uttering a mysterious creed to question everything, leaving our guy with a sly smirk as the quest officially kicks off. Grasping a sharp throwing dagger that glints brightly under the moonlight, our former sword god flashes a confident grin. He is completely prepared to tackle whatever chaotic challenges and backseat viewers come his way in this brand new virtual streaming journey. Before our reincarnated Blade Master can even take a single manual step on his own, the game's high-octane auto-tutorial kicks into high gear, violently launching his body across the moonlit rooftops like an unhinged superhero. Dane vaults effortlessly through the crisp night air, soaring over the ornate Victorian fantasy landscape with truly incredible cinematic flair. Sticking a heavy superhero-style landing onto the hard stone terrace below, his glowing golden eyes lock forward with intense determination as the automated cinematic sequence finally wraps up. With the tutorial's auto mode officially powering down at last, full manual control of this high-stat assassin avatar is completely dumped straight back into his eager hands. Blinking in mild confusion as the game system releases its hold, our former sword god decides to test his movement by heading down a quiet side street toward his objective. But when he runs directly into a dead-end alleyway blocked by vertical metal pipes, a tutorial system prompt pops up instructing him to grab hold and climb up the structure. The instant his fingers make contact with the pipe, the game's auto-climb feature takes over and launches him into a dizzying parkour routine, effortlessly scaling the wall and vaulting up onto the upper roof. Landing gracefully on top, our guy stares at his own hands in absolute awe of the virtual world's incredible physical immersion and realistic movement systems. Shaking off the initial shock of the automated parkour acrobatics, Dane opens up his very first official quest interface window to carefully inspect the details. His main target is a high-ranking noble and secret society middle manager named Itor, while a conveniently marked map route highlights the exact path leading straight to the mark's location. Appreciating just how beginner-friendly this virtual world is, he approaches the roof's edge where a thick rope hangs down toward the lower street. He grips the line and begins sliding down smoothly, taking a brief moment to admire how simple and streamlined all of these basic movement tutorials really are for a newcomer. Unfortunately, our swordmaster's intrusive thoughts quickly get the better of him. Questioning whether he really needs to waste time sliding all the way to the bottom, he recklessly releases his grip midway through the drop to test shortcut physics, sending himself plummeting straight down to crater violently into the hard stone cobblestones below. Rubbing his aching back as he groans on the cracked pavement, our self-proclaimed pro gamer learns the hard way that fall damage in this game is painfully real. But before he can even dust off his cloak and stand up, a bright blue system notification window suddenly flashes right in front of his face. Rubbing his back after cratering into the cobblestones, our reincarnated Blade Master suddenly remembers that he is broadcasting live, quickly pulling up his stream interface to check the chat. To his utter disbelief, 4 actual viewers have already tuned in, proving that Taewoo's shameless beginner bait title actually succeeded in luring in an audience. Reading through the absurdly ridiculous usernames cluttering his chat screen, Dane pauses in mild concern, wondering if his real-life gaming buddies secretly logged in to mock his stream. Shaking off the thought, he fixes his eyes forward as he recalls his streaming mentor's advice about always filling the silence by talking out loud. Recalling Taewoo's golden rules of content creation, he knows that people who visit smaller channels are looking for direct interaction that usually gets buried in massive streams. Wanting to keep his tiny audience entertained, our self-proclaimed pro gamer decides to spark up some casual chatter while working out his next move. When a chatter inspects his account stats and confirms his account was created just 2 days ago, Dane nonchalantly rejects the suggestion to set his profile to private before setting off. Shortly after, he arrives outside Count Eater's mansion, staring up at the Gothic estate bathed in sinister crimson light under a full blood moon. Standing before the heavy iron gates, Dane turns to his viewers and asks if he should just walk straight inside, only for his chatters to yell at him to open Christina's letter first. Unfolding the secret parchment, he discovers a full map layout showing that Eater is located in the second-floor bedroom, protected by roughly 20 elite guards. Opening his inventory to check his combat gear, he summons a concealed sword stick and equips a sturdy metal gauntlet onto his arm. His chat immediately identifies them as standard beginner tutorial weapons, but our former sword god is more than satisfied with his humble arsenal, confident that raw skill matters far more than equipment. Gripping his sheath firmly, he determines that these basic tools are more than sufficient to eliminate Count Eater and clear out the entire mansion. But as our overly ambitious assassin gets ready to march straight through the front gate, his panicked chat interface physically yanks him back by the head, frantically screaming for him to stop. Confused by his chat's sudden digital meltdown, our reincarnated Blade Master learns that stealth is supposed to be the mandatory path for this assassin tutorial. His panicked viewers frantically warn him that barging straight through the front door will trigger massive guard buffs and end his maiden stream prematurely. When a chatter mentions a brutal front door strategy known as a Musa run, Dane's gamer curiosity is instantly sparked. Instead of quietly creeping around like a patient assassin, a Musa run demands charging headfirst through the main gates to eliminate every single enemy out in the open. His stream chat explains that even veteran players spent 10 grueling hours failing this reckless tactic, leaving the tutorial's front door assault completely undefeated. But hearing that no one has ever cleared the mission this way only brings a sly, competitive smile to our hero's face. When viewers claim that only pro-level players could ever dream of pulling off such insane mechanics, Dane casually steps forward onto the estate courtyard. Learning that this feat is considered practically impossible only makes the frontal assault far more tempting for a reincarnated sword god. Pulling up his dark hood with a sharp, confident smirk, our sword master gets ready to give his tiny audience a show they will never forget. Armed with nothing more than beginner starter gear, he prepares to kick off his brand new streaming career with an unprecedented epic beatdown. Under the ominous crimson glow of a blood moon, our former sword god arrives outside a towering Gothic estate. Standing right before the intimidating entrance, he feels the intense crushing pressure radiating from the fortress, but quickly composes himself as he prepares to step inside. Opening up his live stream interface, he finds chat viewers actively placing bets on how fast he will perish. Rather than getting annoyed by the relentless trolling, he smirks knowing his intentional aggro strategy worked, successfully drawing in extra viewers before calmly striding toward the front gates. Armored sentries on guard duty spot the intruder immediately, drawing their weapons and shouting for him to reveal his identity. As stream chat excitedly prepares to watch him get wiped out, our hooded protagonist casually reassures his audience that he already has the entire situation completely under control. A heavy guard leaps forward with a fierce overhead strike, but our protagonist doesn't even bother drawing his sword. With terrifying speed and instinct, he effortlessly blocks the massive blade using his sheathed weapon, following up with a swift counterattack that sends the sentry crashing down. As the guards slump onto the cold ground groaning in pain, stream chat erupts into complete chaos over the unexpected outcome, flooded with disbelief over whether the newcomer just pulled off a high-level parry. Meanwhile, he looks around with a completely clueless expression on his face. Adjusting his grip on his scabbard, a massive 4-digit damage counter flashes across the screen. He gazes down at his simple weapon in genuine confusion, wondering to himself why an elite enemy guard was defeated so ridiculously fast from what felt like a simple defensive block. Enraged by his comrade's defeat, the remaining sentry rushes in with a vengeance, only to get instantly shut down by another flawless deflection. The stream viewers stubbornly accuse him of pulling off consecutive flukes, leaving our master sword fighter bewildered as to what a parry even is. The battered sentry coughs on the floor before dissolving into a shower of bright blue digital particles across the cobblestones. With another 1,000-point damage notification sealing the kill, the once cynical stream chat is left completely speechless, leaving only shocked questions in the chat window. Baffled by basic gaming terminology, our former sword god tilts his head and asks his stream chat what a parry actually means. As viewers instantly erupt into a fierce argument over whether his defensive blocks were pure beginner's luck or insane natural talent, he listens in silence. Unbothered by their endless squabbling, our nonchalant protagonist casually digs his ear and demands that his audience stop fighting and give him a straight answer. The stream chat immediately explodes over his completely disrespectful attitude toward their gaming knowledge. Crouching down on the stone ground, our master swordsman draws stick figure diagrams in the dirt to work out the mechanics himself. He reasons that deflecting an incoming blade at the exact right moment and following up with a vertical strike must leave the opponent completely stunned. When stream chat mockingly informs him that parrying is a high-level skill that even retired professional gamers fail to pull off consistently, he pauses in genuine surprise. He never realized that basic sword deflections were considered such a monumental feat in this virtual realm. Flashback thoughts take him back to his initial VR combat test against a level 9 artificial intelligence. During that fight, he effortlessly deflected the machine's blade downward, proving to himself that what gamers call pro-level combat is second nature to him. He concludes that a successful deflection simply requires predicting the enemy's attack vector and controlling one's own body movement. Amused by chat's warnings that he will face something terrible if he pushes forward, our hooded streamer lets out a confident smirk. Refusing to turn back, our fearless protagonist adjusts his sheathed sword and marches forward into the dark estate. Stream viewers continue to spam the chat box, insisting that he hasn't come to his senses yet and predicting his imminent demise. When a single chat member steps up to defend his extraordinary reflexes, the rest of the stream instantly swarms the lone supporter and roasts him into a laughingstock. Our protagonist can only watch with a deadpan expression as his audience eats itself alive. The endless skepticism takes his mind back to his past life as an unaffiliated swordmaster. Back then, arrogant sect elders constantly disparaged his martial genius simply because he lacked a noble lineage, but under his hood, this familiar doubt only brings a dark smile to his face. Stepping further into the estate courtyard, his path is blocked by 5 heavily armored knights who draw their broadswords and command the intruder to halt. Facing an entire squad of elite guards, our former sword god readies his sheathed blade for another spectacle. Tightening his firm grip on his sheathed weapon, our former sword god decides that actions speak far louder than words. Charging headfirst into the fray, he leaps into the air and dives directly toward the heavily armored squad with frightening speed. With a sickening crack, his undrawn sheath connects squarely with the lead knight's helmet. As the remaining sentries roar in anger and swing their massive broadswords, our agile protagonist dodges beneath their deadly arc. His glowing eyes narrow in absolute focus. Watching the enemy's subtle muscular movements, he calculates the exact trajectory of every blade long before it arrives. Blinding sparks shower the courtyard as he meets every heavy strike with a perfectly timed deflection. To the astonished livestream audience, pulling off 4 consecutive parries seems like an impossible miracle, but to our reincarnated master, it is nothing more than second nature. Sliding seamlessly around another aggressive attack, he drives the butt of his scabbard upward into his target with tremendous force. The heavy armor fails to protect the guard, who crumples onto the stone floor while our hero stands tall without taking a single scratch. Resting his sheathed blade casually across his shoulders, our cocky streamer smirks and taunts his opponents, claiming they would need Shaolin's legendary 108 hot formation to stop him. Meanwhile, stream viewers can only watch in absolute awe as he makes high-level play look trivial. Before the terrified guard can even finish screaming for backup, another devastating sheath strike crashes into his chest, sending him sprawling into the darkness with a violent cough. Letting out a slow, disappointed sigh under his hood, our swordmaster steps over the discarded armor pieces scattered across the blood-stained carpet. Having dispatched 6 elite guards using only his sheath, he calmly tallies his body count like a bored instructor finishing a routine drill. When Stream Chat explodes with frantic messages demanding to know his real profession, he tilts his head and innocently reminds them that he is just a beginner. Leaving his viewers in complete cognitive dissonance, our unbothered protagonist gazes upward in silent thought. When an arrogant stream viewer boldly dares our reincarnated master to ban him from such a small stream, he doesn't hesitate for a single second. Instantly swinging his moderator hammer, he kicks the troll out of the room, leaving the remaining viewers thoroughly entertained by his legendary reaction speed. Gazing at the screen full of enthusiastic chat messages, our protagonist wonders if this positive evaluation means he is actually doing well. Back in his past life, political friction with Grand Marshal Sex kept him from finding a place to belong, yet his unmatched talent could never be hidden, eventually crowning him as the legendary noble sword god. His dramatic, nostalgic reflection is abruptly shattered by hilarious memories of his angry junior disciples, screaming at him over past trouble he caused. Shaking off the sentimental flashback with a quick cough, our nonchalant swordmaster casually digs his ear and returns his full attention to the stream. When frantic stream viewers flood the screen demanding to know the real secret behind his god-tier parry timing, our smug streamer flashes a bright smile and gives his honest advice: simply remember your past life or carefully time a vertical blade strike. Unsurprisingly, the chat erupts into absolute chaos, furious over his ridiculous humblebrag. Before the chat room can even recover, heavy footsteps echo through the corridor as intruder alarms draw an entire squad of estate sentries directly to his location. Standing calmly in the center of the dimly lit hall, our former sword god finds himself completely encircled by a massive wall of armored knights with glowing red blades. As pessimistic viewers urge him to give up, take the death, and skip the tutorial boss, a dark, wicked smirk spreads across his face. Firmly grasping the hilt of his sheathed weapon, our legendary swordmaster looks directly at his audience and tantalizingly asks if they want to see a beginner pull off 13 consecutive parries. Shouts of panic echo through the Grand Crimson Mansion as guards scramble to eliminate a single intruder. But standing in the shadowy corridor, our swordmaster protagonist calmly unsheathes his blade, looking more like a man out for a casual evening stroll than a guy raiding a fortress. Before the guards can even form a proper defensive line, he explodes forward in a sudden burst of speed. In a blinding flash of silver and blood, his sword carves right through the heavily armored knights, leaving the enemy crying out in complete chaos. More reinforcements leap down from the balcony with weapons raised, but his sharp golden eyes track every angle in real time. Pivoting effortlessly, he dodges an ambush from behind and counters with a swift blue arc, making stream viewers question if he has eyes on the back of his head. An enraged knight lunges forward shouting curses, but our protagonist firmly plants his boot onto the stone floor to set up his stance. He shifts his balance smoothly, completely unbothered by the heavy steel hurtling toward his face. With a sharp metallic clang, he parries the heavy sword strike head-on, sending brilliant sparks cascading through the dark hallway. The stunned guard barely manages to gasp out in bewilderment as his entire attack gets completely shut down. Unleashing a massive wave of red aura, our hero delivers a devastating multi-hit slash that deals 4-digit damage numbers, wiping out the entire assault squad at once. As gentle light fills the hallway, he steps past the fallen guards with a calm, handsome smile. Meanwhile, back in the real world, a viewer literally leaps out of his gaming chair, knocking it over in utter disbelief. Meet Joam, a hardcore gaming fan known as the Joseon's assassin, who is currently screaming at his monitor in shock, wondering if this streamer is actually a beginner. As a legendary superfan of Dawn of the Assassination, Joam vividly recalls the developer conference where creators challenged players, claiming a frontal Musu run was nearly impossible. Back then, Joam had cheered with excitement in the audience, thrilled by the promise of an ultimate challenge. However, the game's absurd difficulty quickly crushed everyone's spirit, leaving players stuck in an endless loop of game over screens. Desperate gamers eventually gave up on traditional stealth, opting to cheese missions by collapsing massive buildings right onto their targets. Other streamers resorted to planting dynamite behind park benches or shivering inside wooden barrels for 3 excruciating hours while waiting for a single target to walk by. Seeing someone breeze through the game using pure, god-tier sword mastery is completely blowing Joam's mind. Watching the impossible frontal musu run unfold live on screen, Jo-Am practically leaps out of his skin with pure excitement. After years of seeing players crushed by the game's hellish difficulty or forced into embarrassing barrel-hiding tactics, he has finally stumbled upon a small stream where a total rookie is pulling off the god-tier sword mastery everyone thought was impossible. With the mansion corridor now completely littered with fallen guards, the tiny stream chat erupts in utter shock as viewers accuse our handsome swordmaster of using illegal cheat hacks. Totally unbothered by the wild accusations, he casually walks past the fallen enemy squad and delivers the most absurd advice ever, telling them to simply dodge what needs dodging and parry what needs parrying. When the stunned viewers call him out for ultimate humble bragging, our nonchalant protagonist scratches his head with his sheath and threatens to shut down the stream entirely if they do not behave. Terrified of missing out on the gameplay of a lifetime, the panicked viewers immediately back down, raising his channel count to a grand total of 6 dedicated followers. Before he can even celebrate his new fan base, a violent explosion blows through the corridor, sending debris flying as heavy combat boots step onto the shattered floor. A terrifying enemy commander emerges while swinging a massive spiked flail on a chain, but our golden-eyed swordsman reads the incoming attack trajectory instantly and dodges the crushing blow without breaking a sweat. As the flail-wielding brute cackles with villainous laughter, our protagonist charges headfirst into the attack zone and leaps high into the air. Sailing effortlessly over the deadly spiked ball, he drops low behind the enemy and delivers a clean horizontal slash across his back, dealing a modest 5 points of damage. Despite taking a direct sword strike, the sinister commander turns around with a sadistic grin, completely unimpressed by the attack. Noticing the boss's massive health bar barely even twitched, our golden-eyed hero locks eyes with the enemy, realizing he has officially entered his first genuine bullet sponge boss fight. As our protagonist casually looks toward the camera and asks his stream chat if a giant spiked flail can be parried, the enraged boss swings his massive weapon directly at his head. Dodging the crushing downward strike with effortless elegance, our golden-eyed swordsman leaps high off the shattering floorboards without missing a beat. He instantly counters with a swift horizontal slash across the armor, but the heavy brute barely flinches and begins spinning his spiked ball with a menacing laugh. Unfazed by the deadly threat, the protagonist vaults high into the air above the whirlwind attack, plunging straight back down with sharp precision. The sword strike connects, but the arrogant boss simply laughs off the tiny 3-point damage while boasting about his immortality. Backflipping away from another wild flail swing to reset his position, our protagonist lands smoothly on his feet, realizing that mindlessly hacking at a massive bullet sponge health bar will get him nowhere. Just then, a viewer notification pops up in chat, warning him about an automatic fail timer, catching our protagonist completely off guard. Seeing the clock already ticking down past 4 minutes while the angry commander charges forward with another swing, our hero keeps his eye on the enemy while searching for a way to break through. With the remaining time quickly slipping away, our hero contemplates targeting vital points to end the fight before the timer expires. Luckily, superfan Jo-Am chimes in with vital game knowledge, explaining that repeatedly striking the exact same spot will rapidly increase damage output. Grateful for the advice, our swordsman decides to put the theory to the test. Shouting a quick thank you to Jo-Am, our protagonist channels a brilliant crimson aura into his blade and leaps high into the air. Diving down with incredible speed, he lands a heavy vertical slash directly on the boss's neck, dealing 70 damage in a single blow and proving that hitting the same spot works. The wounded commander clutches his bloody collar in utter rage, but with barely 2 minutes left on the clock, our hero refuses to offer any breathing room. Pressing the assault with a relentless barrage of continuous strikes, he overwhelms the sweating brute and forces him to desperately hold his ground under heavy pressure. Driven to absolute fury, the flail commander throws a desperate fist right at our hero's face while screaming at him to get his hands off his weapon. Dodging the heavy punch with effortless grace, our golden-eyed swordsman glides past the attack and carves another heavy crimson strike directly into Eater's neck, bringing the tutorial countdown down to just 1 minute and 7 seconds. Channeling a brilliant red aura, the hero unleashes a lightning-fast combo that multiplies his damage output from 100 all the way to 300 points per hit. He lands smoothly with his cloak fluttering as the boss bleeds out. But upon checking the chat and noticing Eater still has a tiny sliver of health left, our nonchalant protagonist casually delivers one last lethal slash with 51 seconds on the clock. Gasping for breath with blood dripping down his chest, the defeated commander clutches his throat and venomously curses our hero as a hypocritical hound of assassins. Refusing to go out quietly, Eater frantically rips open his collar in a fit of rage, roaring that he will drag the protagonist down to hell with him rather than die alone. However, his desperate threats come to nothing, as the system window pops up to announce the tutorial quest has been officially cleared. Back in reality, an utterly stunned Joam rapidly clicks his mouse to edit the stream VODs, crafting sensational video titles about a total newbie parrying 13 enemies to immortalize this historic boss defeat for all gamers to see. Late at night, inside a quiet apartment building, an exhausted gamer sits glued to his glowing monitor, pounding his mouse in absolute astonishment. He simply cannot look away from the absurdly high-level play happening right on his screen. He clutches his face in pure disbelief, shouting out loud because he cannot believe he is actually witnessing a world-first clear in real time. With trembling fingers, he quickly clicks his mouse to save and share the unbelievable replay clip. Within minutes, community forums explode with viral posts about the mysterious video, sending shockwaves through the community. Shocked players furiously argue whether the raid boss was recently nerfed or if this brand new account with 2 hours of playtime is actually an ungodly gaming prodigy. Meanwhile, inside the cinematic game footage, a severely wounded nobleman coughs up blood while cursing out his shadow assailant. With a malicious smirk carved into his face, he bellows hateful insults, refusing to go down without taking his opponent with him. He aggressively rips open his tunic to reveal a forbidden spell, causing the pink-haired assassin to gasp in utter terror. Massive red magic arrays instantly manifest across the iron floor, charging up with volatile destruction energy. A colossal explosion violently detonates, engulfing the entire chamber in a blinding wall of fire and destruction. The catastrophic kamikaze blast completely vaporizes the room, leaving nothing behind but roaring flames and flying stone debris. Dashing out of the raging inferno, the stealthy assassin rolls onto the stone floor and grimaces at Eater's reckless self-destruction trick. He barely gets a second to recover before loud shouts echo through the corridor as fully armored guards rush in. Framed against the ominous glow of a blood-red moon, our rogue hero dashes across the courtyard and bolts straight into the dark surrounding forest. He sprints through the freezing night air, weaving past trees in a desperate attempt to break line of sight. Without warning, a lethal projectile whistles through the trees and strikes his shoulder, making him gasp in surprise. The force of the impact knocks him completely off balance, causing his foot to lose traction and slip right off the jagged cliff edge. Plunging headfirst off the high cliffside, our wounded pink-haired operative tumbles downward into the dark, freezing waters below. As the rapid current swallows him whole, his remaining energy completely vanishes and his eyes drift shut in defeat, leaving his unconscious body floating helplessly in the river depths. When bright morning sunlight finally breaks over the towering mountain peaks, the rushing river washes his battered body onto a tranquil bank far downstream. He lies motionless in the mud with one pale hand soaking in the cool water, remaining completely unconscious after surviving that terrifying cliffside drop. Before he can regain consciousness, slow footsteps crunch along the riverbank as a mysterious traveler steps out from the shaded forest. The stranger comes to a halt directly beside the fallen assassin, casting a long shadow over the battered body lying face down in the mud. Reaching down to check the body, the hooded traveler loots a gleaming golden eagle crest right off the assassin's gear and holds it up to inspect in the morning light. He turns the shiny prize over in his gloved hand, thoroughly pleased with the valuable loot. Pulling back his dark hood reveals an amused smirk on our black-haired protagonist's face, just as a system window confirms the transition back to player character control. This means our secret gaming genius was the brilliant strategist piloting this entire intense mission all along. While his stream chat room dramatically floods with crying emojis over the NPC's tragic cutscene death, our unbothered pro-gamer just smirks at their emotional reaction. He smugly boasts that he easily would have parried that fatal arrow himself, clapping his hands together to snap everyone back to reality. Now standing back in town under the open sky, he addresses his live audience and asks what objective he should tackle next. His chat room immediately spams recommendations, telling him to hurry over to the local tavern and meet an NPC named Christina, leaving him slightly confused by the unfamiliar name. Connecting the dots, he realizes the game system automatically teleported his avatar straight to the tavern entrance the moment the cutscene concluded. With his new goal clear, our veteran player turns toward the building, ready to walk inside and kick off his next major quest adventure. Stepping into the lively tavern, our black-haired gamer immediately locks eyes on the blonde barmaid wiping down glasses behind the counter, recognizing her instantly as the prime quest-giver NPC for his next mission. Noticeably surprised by his sudden arrival, the barmaid politely asks if he needs any assistance. Our smooth-talking strategist just grins, taking a seat at the table to kick off their conversation. He pulls out the golden eagle emblem he looted earlier, triggering an automated dialogue sequence. The moment the barmaid catches sight of the gleaming crest, her eyes widen in shock as she trembles, angrily demanding to know his identity. Urging her to stay calm, he reassures her that he only came to assist, confidently boasting about his elite assassination skills. Connecting the clues, she asks if he is the operative from the West, which he cheerfully confirms. She recalls floating rumors about a ruthless mercenary willing to execute any job for the right price, concluding that someone driven purely by profit couldn't possibly be working alongside her sworn enemies. Sighing in relief, Christina suggests they swap names and introduces herself first. However, just as our protagonist opens his mouth to reply, the system suddenly interrupts him with a character naming pop-up. As his stream chat room frantically debates whether he should just stick with his real name Jin Seojun, our veteran gamer chooses the classic mysterious route, smirking as he introduces himself as Nameless. Our smooth-talking strategist proudly unveils his chosen in-game alias as Nameless, instantly sending his live chat into hysterics over what they assume is a lazy tag. He inwardly defends his choice, recalling how during his previous life in Marim, calling yourself Nameless was considered the ultimate cool moniker among elite swordmasters. Completely unaware of his dramatic internal monologue, Christina accepts his new alias without missing a beat and prepares to move forward with their professional arrangement. Gazing down at the golden eagle brooch resting in her hand, she somberly demands to know the exact whereabouts of its original owner before agreeing to arrange any future assassination contracts. Upon learning that her fallen associate was respectfully buried down near the western pier, Christina presents him with a dark signal stone to ensure they can remain in direct contact. As clear system prompts confirm the item transfer into his inventory, Christina warmly bids her mysterious new contractor farewell and expresses exceptionally high hopes for their upcoming partnership. Stepping back out into the town's warm sunset glow, our veteran swordmaster stretches contentedly after successfully wrapping up every single mission objective he had planned for his debut gaming broadcast. Addressing his small audience, he casually explains that they can call him whatever they like until an official channel handle is decided, before formally announcing his sign-off for the evening. Noticeably flustered by the chat's wholesome sign-off traditions, our awkward pro gamer stammers out a shy goodbye and hilariously fumbles with the virtual logout interface like a complete newcomer. Shifting focus back to the real world inside his quiet nighttime apartment, our exhausted gamer leans back in his desk chair and taps his glowing monitor to check his final broadcast stats. Genuinely touched that all 6 original viewers stayed tuned in until the very end, he smirks while reviewing their weirdly unique usernames until a sudden system alert unexpectedly catches him off guard. Just as he wraps up his stream, unexpected viewer notifications start flashing across his monitor, with newcomers asking if this is the channel doing the viral Musu run. Staring at his screen in complete bewilderment, our oblivious pro gamer leans back in his chair, wondering why fresh viewers are still piling into an offline channel. While lounging in bed and feeling pretty good about his latest broadcast, Kim Tae-woo gets the soul jump-scared out of him when his roommate barges in yelling. After recovering from near heart failure, he notices something weird. The stream chat is still aggressively blowing up even though the stream ended. Speechless at the digital chaos, the two move over to the couch to figure out what is going on. Tae-woo shoves a clip onto the screen showing Seojun parrying 13 tutorial mobs at once, completely baffled by how a first-day rookie already has hardcore for fans out here marketing his gameplay. Tae-woo holds up his phone to highlight a familiar hype man spamming links in the comments. He excitedly breaks down the algorithm, explaining that reaching 30 upvotes will send the post straight to the front page and trigger a massive influx of brand new followers. Unimpressed by his roommate's sudden expert lecture on internet fame, Seojun delivers a deadpan judgment and tells him to just go to sleep. Yet once he gets into his own bed, curiosity wins out and he watches the upvote tally tick upwards before finally setting the phone down. The next morning arrives and Tae-woo's algorithm prediction hits the bullseye as upvotes blow past 30. Staring at his desktop screen, Seojun calmly observes the comment section spiraling into flame wars over whether his Iron Cane parrying is divine combat mastery or an absolute scam. Scrolling through the online forums, Seojun's eyes widen when he stumbles upon a popular thread breaking down his AI clone's combat behavior. Apparently, the gaming community isn't just debating his mechanics anymore, they're actively calling out his digital avatar for displaying top-tier bad manners. A video clip attached to the post highlights the hilarious difference. While the previous level 10 AI patiently waited whenever players accidentally dropped their swords, Seojun's ruthless clone pounces on any opening like a hungry predator, terrifying opponents before striking an impossibly arrogant victory pose. Seojun facepalms at his desktop, realizing why his virtual double earned such a toxic reputation. He had been casually chatting with Taiwu while playing through the tutorial, completely unaware that his relaxed banter was being recorded as cold, merciless disrespect. To make matters even more chaotic, he notices a comment from his dedicated fan, Joseon Assassin, who immediately deduced that the mystery boss terrorizing the training grounds is none other than Lord Nameless. Leaning back in his office chair, our re-embodied swordmaster takes a moment to process the sudden wave of internet attention. Remembering harsh lessons from his past life, he knows that sudden unearned recognition can be a toxic trap, so he resolves to focus on steady day-by-day self-improvement. With his mindset firmly set, Seojun steps away from his desk and climbs inside his full-immersion gaming capsule. As the pod seals shut, he closes his eyes and prepares to dive back into the virtual world. Materializing in the digital hub, Seojun checks his channel stats and gasps to find his subscriber count has exploded to 432 thanks to Taewoo's relentless thread promotion. Curious to see if those numbers will translate into live chatters, he enthusiastically hits the start broadcast button. The grand fantasy realm of Dawn of the Assassin Squad loads up, revealing the ancient city of Altion. The metropolis is split into 4 distinct sectors: the noble royal district, the majestic Aetherius Spire magic tower, the wealthy gilded quarter, and the shadow-drenched low quarter where players embark on high-stakes assassination missions. Welcome back to the gloomy metropolis of Altion, where free-roaming assassins can practice their lethal craft on unsuspecting targets without taking official contracts. As dark storm clouds roll over the towering Gothic architecture, the stage is set for our reincarnated Swordmaster's second live broadcast. Materializing on the sunlit cobblestone streets, Seojun offers his chat a friendly wave while showing off his stylish new assassin outfit. He takes a moment to adjust his leather gear, looking every bit the cool fantasy protagonist, until he actually turns around to check his streaming notifications. The moment his camera goes live, the chat room instantly erupts with an influx of energetic new followers eager to see the mysterious tutorial boss in action. When suspicious viewers start asking if he's secretly bribed famous streamers for clout, Seojun chuckles softly and shuts down the conspiracy theories on the spot. Before he can even outline a game plan, a shiny 10,001 donation alert flashes brightly across his display screen. A desperate chatter named "How Do I Actually Do This?" begs for secret tactical advice on how to defeat Eater, dramatically claiming they are holding their breath until our master responds. Seojun nonchalantly advises the donor to just keep hitting the same spot, which immediately triggers a hilarious barrage of thumbs-down emojis and ruthless chat roasting. Stroking his chin in mild embarrassment, our ancient swordmaster realizes his elite advice was far too vague for ordinary gamers. To make amends for his terrible tip, Seojun pulls up a detailed visual diagram, explaining how striking an enemy's vitals flusters their stance and leaves them wide open. The suffocating viewer drops another donation to announce they can finally breathe again, leaving Seojun chuckling at the sheer absurdity of internet culture. Noticing an overwhelming sea of unfamiliar usernames flying past in the chat window, Seojun decides to check his live broadcast analytics. His eyes widen in complete disbelief when the interface shows 327 active viewers, shattering his humble expectations of topping out at barely 100. Standing in the crowded city square, our rookie streamer asks his growing audience what content they want to see today. The chat immediately floods with wild requests, with hardcore fans demanding high-octane swordplay, while casual viewers just want to watch him casually explore the city. When his viewers begin passionately bickering over which gameplay style is best, Seojun nervously steps in as the wholesome peacemaker. He carefully scans through the contradictory suggestions, noticing one helpful chatter pointing out that he can take assassin requests, sight, or even try his hand at pickpocketing. Flashing a devious smirk, our former martial arts grandmaster decides that epic, high-stakes combat can wait just a little longer. He turns his gaze toward the bustling, wealthy crowds roaming the streets of Altion, declaring to his chat that he's going to warm up his godlike reflexes by casually pickpocketing unsuspecting NPCs. Ah, the bustling city marketplace. The perfect venue for an honest day's work, or in our former sword god's case, some high-grade criminal activity. Out of nowhere, a drunk guy comes stumbling through the crowd, yelling at people to move aside. He slams straight into our hooded hero, instantly flying off the handle and screaming at him to watch where he's going. Naturally, our quiet protagonist just politely bows his head, playing the innocent victim like an absolute pro. The drunken, angry man wobbles away complaining about kids having zero manners these days, completely unaware that he just lost his life savings. Slipping into a quiet corner, our hooded streamer pulls back his hood to admire his newly acquired plunder. He chuckles to himself, noting that applying the martial arts principles of Gumnasu makes snatching coin purses surprisingly effortless. Who knew ancient combat techniques translated so well into petty larceny? After successfully robbing 3 clueless pedestrians in a row, the stream chat goes into absolute overdrive. Viewers start questioning whether they stumbled into a martial arts domination channel or a full-blown thief tutorial. They wonder if this guy learned his skills in the back alleys or straight from a Marine grandmaster, while our hero nonchalantly tucked away another stolen pouch. One chatter points out that the true joy of pickpocketing is the adrenaline rush of being chased by guards. But our pragmatic streamer is just counting his massive fortune, holding 3 stuffed money bags worth 42,000 gold. He happily realizes he definitely won't starve anywhere he goes, while chat points out he just made enough cash to buy a luxury apartment. Before he can plan his real estate investments, a shady voice interrupts his celebration. Our hero turns around mid-loot, counting to find 2 menacing local thugs blocking the alleyway. They step closer with sinister grins on their faces, letting him know they saw all the interesting work he's been doing. Our swordmaster innocently points at himself, wondering if they're actually talking to him. The lead thug slaps a friendly arm over our hero's shoulder, informing him that anyone conducting business in these parts needs their official permission first. Our confused streamer holds up his stolen coin pouch, asking if they mean his loot. The thug eagerly confirms that yes, hand over the cut or else. As the thug demands a cut of the haul, our streamer pauses to address his viewers, genuinely baffled by a game that lets local street thugs shake you down instead of the town guards. The chat explodes with hype, telling him to obliterate them all and start a Musu massacre. Curiously, our hero asks if it's actually possible to wipe out this entire syndicate, and chat eagerly gives him the green light. Viewers explain that if he takes down the syndicate boss, a notorious faction known as the Disassembler, the entire marketplace gets permanently cleaned up. Hearing this noble goal, our swordmaster smirks and adjusts his cloak. He officially declares today's stream objective, completely wiping out the local mafia. The chat immediately erupts in laughter at his boldness, mocking the fact that this newbie doesn't even know what a dismantler is or how brutal the fight will be. A cute chibi overlay highlights his pure gaming innocence as he cluelessly asks what parrying even means. Little do they know, a former sword god doesn't need game mechanics to wreck face. Meanwhile, over at a grand aristocratic estate, guards are in full panic mode as shouting echoes through the courtyard to hunt down an intruder. Inside the dark mansion, a bald guard paces around with his sword drawn, completely oblivious to the fact that someone is clinging directly to the candle chandelier right above his head. It turns out to be Alpaca, a veteran 10K viewer streamer attempting a bare-handed assassination challenge. Hanging precariously from the ceiling, he sweats profusely while complaining that his camera angle sucks. To make matters worse, hot candle wax begins dripping from his perch, falling straight toward the guard's feet below. Back at the mansion, candle wax dripping on the guard's head immediately blows our sneaky streamer's cover. The bald guard looks up in fury and slashes his sword, sending our veteran intruder straight into a quick game over. Respawning back in the city alleyways, Alpaca sighs over how many times syndicate goons have killed him today. His chat helpfully reminds him this was his 4th death, earning a very unenthusiastic thanks from the struggling streamer. Taking down the local gang leader named Drake is the key to clearing District 4, but doing it alone feels completely impossible. Viewers in chat agree, pointing out that syndicate rulers in this game are notoriously unbeatable. In this virtual world, the syndicate leaders managing District 4 of Altion are known as the rulers, serving as major villains. Among these terrifying overlords sits the enigmatic queen, ruling over her portion of the city. Beside her stand the Grand Magic Tower Master wielding deadly arcane power and the strategic royalist leader who treats the entire region like a personal chessboard. Each one commands massive territory and lethal forces. Then there's the feared boss of the Disassemblers, a ruthless underworld kingpin named Drake. Sitting comfortably on his gilded throne, he controls the criminal underground with an iron grip. To make matters worse, Drake randomly spawns in one of 10 different hideouts across the city. After purchasing a secret map scroll from a local dealer, Alpaca opens it up only to discover the boss is hiding inside a theater troupe. A viewer donates 10,000 won, urging Alpaca to just perform a bare-handed Musu run like another player did. Alpaca scoffs while thanking the donor, insisting this realistic game design makes solo mob sweeps completely impossible. When chat insists the community boards are blowing up over someone actually pulling it off, our skeptical streamer opens the forum menu. He smiles smugly, convinced nobody could possibly clear syndicate hideouts with raw martial arts. Getting overly confident, Alpaca announces an all-night marathon challenge, swearing to keep streaming until he clears Drake alongside this mysterious new player. He chuckles to himself, certain he just scored free donation money on an impossible claim. However, the chat immediately responds with endless laughter instead of doubt. Realizing the viral forum clips might actually be real, Alpaca instantly panics and stammers that he will cancel the challenge if it's a genuine pro. As his stream chat erupts with boos and calls him out for taking the L, another donation window pops up. Our humbled veteran streamer coughs awkwardly, sweating bullets as he realizes he might have just trapped himself. While Alpaca panics on stream, glass shatters violently through the upper ceiling of a heavily guarded estate. The mansion guards immediately erupt into complete chaos, scrambling across the room and shouting that an intruder has broken into the lower floor. Scores of armed guards swarm down the grand staircase with weapons drawn, yelling frantically to stop him at all costs. But standing quietly at the bottom is our hooded swordmaster, casually gripping a metal pipe with a confident smirk on his face. 30 minutes before the legendary King of Fists comment shook the stream, our local sword grandmaster turned gamer steps into a dripping, sketchy alleyway. He trails behind a group of heavily armed guards, while his stream chat immediately roasts the sketchy neighborhood vibes. Unbothered by his complete lack of reputation points, our hero decides to casually stalk the syndicate goons anyway. He naively asks if taking down a criminal empire is really that hard, driving his live chat into absolute hysterics when he asks what a ruler even is. Faced with an avalanche of chat memes mocking his gaming ignorance, our protagonist demands a serious explanation. He actually researched boss guides the night before, but every single guide warned that informants would face brutal retaliation, leaving him with a tricky dilemma. Luckily, his high IQ gamer logic quickly finds the ultimate workaround. Why worry about syndicate retaliation when you can simply beat the gangsters so thoroughly that the mere thought of revenge gives them PTSD? Problem solved, smooth brain style. Back in the alley, our boy confronts the muggers with absolute audacity, demanding they hand over all their stolen wallets while he's still asking nicely. Naturally, the local hooligans laugh off the threat, completely oblivious that they're talking to a walking calamity. The gang leader gets uncomfortably close, aggressively poking his chest and assuming this quiet kid is frozen in terror. Little do these doomed thugs realize, our hero isn't trembling from fear. He's just deeply annoyed that low-level fodder is delaying his main quest. Cutting straight to the point, he asks if they know where their leader Drake is hiding. The gangster responds with utter confusion, pointing out that Drake is their boss and angrily asking why they would ever snitch on him to a random intruder. Cracking his knuckles with a sinister grin, our swordmaster declares that fists are the ultimate universal language. Since sweet-talking won't get him the boss's location, he decides to skip the negotiation phase entirely and get straight to the beatdown. As the bewildered gangsters try to process his insane confidence, the boss orders his crew to teach the kid a harsh lesson. Two armed goons charge forward with blades drawn, only to get met with an instant, blinding flash of pure violence. With the goons launching an all-out assault, our sword grandmaster casually ducks beneath the initial wave of strikes. Moving like a ghost through the shadowy alley, he glides under their blades before they can even process his movement. One particularly angry thug lunges forward with a dagger, screaming insults at the top of his lungs. But our hero doesn't even flinch, coolly evaluating the incoming blade before flicking his wrist to effortlessly parry the strike midair. Without wasting a single motion, he grabs the attacker's momentum and slams him face first into the hard cobblestones. The impact shatters the thug's confidence along with his dignity, leaving him eating street dirt. The next mobster tries to sneak in a quick slash, but our gamer god just smirks. He catches the incoming blade on his own dagger with zero effort, looking completely bored by their slow-motion attack speed. Outraged by his friend's instant defeat, the red-haired gangster swings wildly in desperation. Our protagonist responds with a blinding blue counterslash, unleashing so much raw force that the goon freezes in absolute terror. Locking his sharp glare onto his target, our hero delivers a final, devastating downward strike. The force sends the thug stumbling past him into oblivion, bringing an abrupt end to their little ambush. In under a minute, the entire sketchy alley is transformed into a peaceful nap zone full of unconscious gangsters. Standing tall in the center of the carnage, our low-level streamer sports a calm smile while his live chat goes absolutely wild over his Musu-style play. The last surviving syndicate member frantically tries to crawl away, but our hero slowly approaches and draws his dagger. Dropping his casual streamer persona, he glares down at the mobster with cold intensity and bluntly demands Drake's location. When the terrified thug stammers that he'll never talk, our swordmaster instantly cleaves the guy's dagger right in half. The violent display reduces the once tough gangster to a shivering, cartoonish wreck holding a ruined blade. Stepping forward with an ominous glow in his eye, our hero repeats his question with terrifying authority. He keeps demanding an answer, completely unaware that his sheer aura has literally shocked the poor mobster into a state of silent, stuttering paralysis. Shaking like a leaf, the traumatized mobster squeals out the secret location, the largest theater down on 13th Street. Satisfied with the intel, our Grandmaster leaves him passed out on the ground, while his live chat loses its mind over his absurd interrogation tactics and hilariously mourns poor Eater's sacrificed reputation. Flicking his tiny starter dagger around, our hero complains that the short blade is way too awkward for real swordsmanship. But as he looks around the dingy alleyway, his eyes light up when he spots a sturdy metal pipe that looks infinitely better suited for a proper beatdown. Armed with his trusty new metal pipe, our sword Grandmaster waltzes right into the Syndicate's theater hideout and immediately draws all the aggro. Dozens of heavily armed guards charge at once, but he casually twirls his makeshift weapon, unleashing a violent red wave that pulverizes the entire horde in seconds. Defeated bodies cover the grand staircase as our low-level Calamity stands victorious atop the bloody wreckage. Resting his pipe on his shoulder, he casually complains that the game developers were completely out of their minds for expecting him to stealthily assassinate a room packed with 30 angry guards. While chat roasts his zero-stealth playstyle, a loud, booming voice echoes from high above in the rafters, mockingly praising his combat skill. Before our hero can even process the mystery speaker, a blinding blue flash tears through the dimly lit room as an ambush projectile shoots down at lightning speed. With godly Grandmaster reflexes, our gamer protagonist effortlessly dodges, letting the lethal blade slice the air right past his face before embedding itself into the wall. Unfazed by the narrow escape, he turns his sharp gaze upward, locking eyes with the hidden assassin spying on him from the dark. Before he can move, a deadly storm of floating daggers materializes from the gloom, pointing directly at him from every single angle. But facing a literal lethal hail of steel, our hero doesn't even flinch, coolly taking his stance to show this new challenger what a real swordmaster can do. Our favorite sword god Reincarnated steps right into the dungeon boss chamber, only to be immediately greeted by an apocalyptic rain of flying daggers. Instead of pulling off a sensible dodge, he casually tightens his grip on a battered iron pipe and begins deflecting every single projectile with ridiculous precision. His lightning-fast parries spark an absolute frenzy in the livestream chat, where stunned viewers are convinced his god-tier reaction speed defies all known online game physics. Heavy footsteps echo through the crumbling grand hall as the dungeon boss, Drake the Dissembler, steps out of the shadows with a patronizing smirk. The bearded assassin casually twirls a fresh set of razor-sharp throwing knives between his gloved fingers, thoroughly amused by the intruder's defensive stunt. Confident that his next attack will pierce right through, Drake mockingly asks whether our hooded protagonist has what it takes to parry this upcoming lethal barrage as well. Drake hurls an overwhelming storm of purple-streaked daggers that completely fills the hall, aiming to turn our hero into a human pincushion. Most players would instantly smash the panic button, but our cool-headed protagonist just locks eyes with the flying swarm and grips his trusty metal pipe. In one fluid motion, he spins his weapon like a high-speed rotor, creating an impenetrable crimson shield of pure physical momentum that shatters the entire assault. Every single incoming blade collides with his spinning shield and slams harmlessly into the shattered stone floor below. But our swordmaster isn't just defending, because he intentionally ricochets one projectile off his pipe and sends it flying straight back at Drake's face. The rogue dagger grazes the boss's cheek and leaves a bloody scratch, instantly wiping away the assassin's smug grin while the spectating chat completely loses its mind. Flashing a subtle smirk from beneath his hood, our hero watches as Drake touches the fresh wound on his cheek in absolute shock. Realizing he is dealing with a legitimate monster rather than a random novice player, the boss drops his condescending attitude and asks for the warrior's name. Our quiet protagonist calmly responds that he goes by Nameless, prompting Drake to nod approvingly and admit that true power always deserves genuine respect. Deciding that playtime is officially over, ominous red chains manifest out of thin air as Drake prepares to unveil his true capabilities. The boss draws a pair of lethal chained blades engulfed in dark purple energy, cackling with evil glee as he drops into a deadly battle stance. He promises to fight at absolute maximum power from here on out, setting the stage for an explosive showdown between two unstoppable masters. Drake launches his deadly chain blades like bloodthirsty harpoons, tearing through the air to split our hero wide open. But our favorite sword god Reincarnate stays completely unbothered, casually deflecting every single high-speed projectile with his battered iron pipe as if playing a routine rhythm game on easy mode. Drake spins his heavy chains into an absolute hurricane of razor-sharp steel, sending lethal arcs sweeping across the entire hall. Watching the boss go full helicopter mode, our cool-headed protagonist quickly realizes these treacherous chained weapons are the exact gimmick that kept all previous players from ever clearing this dungeon. While stunned viewers in the stream chat debate whether the developers secretly encouraged Muzu-style slaughter, Drake slowly stalks forward with his blades glowing with dark power. The smug assassin mockingly asks if our hero is too terrified to move, thoroughly convinced he's backed the masked warrior into a helpless corner. Tired of waiting around, the bearded rogue decides to take the offensive himself and lunges forward with a wild battle cry. He unleashes a vicious purple melee strike, but our protagonist effortlessly catches the heavy blade against his trusty pipe, locking eyes with the boss without yielding a single inch of ground. Drake whips his secondary chain overhead in a rapid vertical ambush, forcing our hero to tilt back and pull off acrobatic mid-air parries. The spectating chat completely loses its mind, frantically spamming that Drake's relentless, continuous attack pattern is physically impossible for any normal player to overcome. Beneath his hood, our hero actually flashes a subtle smile, admitting to himself that this duel is trickier than taking on 13 opponents at once. But having already braved the legendary mountain of swords and forest of blades in his past life, he instantly spots the single true path through the storm. Ducking effortlessly beneath another high-speed chain sweep, our protagonist glides into close range to initiate his counterstrike. Reminded of past battles against stubborn defenders, he watches as Drake roars with fury, screaming at the top of his lungs that he will never allow intruders to break through. Their weapons collide with a blinding detonation of purple energy that violently shakes the crumbling hall. Our swordmaster smashes right through the assassin's offense, leaving the enraged boss gritting his teeth in absolute shock and agony, as his supposedly unbeatable stance is completely shattered to pieces. While parrying low-level mobs grants an instant kill, our favorite sword god Reincarnate knows that technique only buys a brief opening against a high-tier dungeon boss like Drake. Since the assassin's floating chains make landing a clean hit difficult for normal players, our cool-headed protagonist locks his gaze on his opponent, tightens his grip on that battered iron pipe, and decides it is finally time to strike properly. Stomping his boot onto the blood-red floor, Nameless lowers his center of gravity to transfer maximum kinetic power from his legs right up through his torso. Channeling the exact high-guard stance he practiced tens of thousands of times in his previous life, the ghostly aura of an ancient swordmaster manifests around him, turning a humble piece of rusty plumbing into a weapon of mass destruction. Executing the overhead strike with lightning speed, our hooded hero brings the pipe crashing down straight onto Drake's forehead with a merciless downward chop. The sheer physical force shatters the boss's defense and slams him violently into the stone floor below, leaving the spectating stream chat in absolute disarray as shocked viewers try to figure out how a simple iron pipe caused so much destruction. Taking a short breath, Nameless admits to himself that he initially doubted whether his ancient martial arts would function properly inside a virtual reality game. But as digital wireframes calculate his foot placement, torso rotation, and arm trajectory, he proves that true combat principles remain completely identical regardless of whether he is fighting in the real world or inside a VR simulation. Now that his avatar's motor controls are perfectly calibrated to match his past life instincts, our cool-headed hero calmly tracks the ominous chain slithering across the hall. Drake attempts to crush him with a furious purple-infused chain smash that completely demolishes the floor, but Nameless effortlessly glides sideways with razor-thin clearance, dodging the massive blast without even breaking his stride. Losing his sanity after taking a pipe directly to the forehead, the enraged assassin screams in pure fury and hurls his lethal chained blade straight at his opponent's chest. But instead of retreating from the apocalyptic barrage, our fearless protagonist casually slides along the flying chain itself, parrying every high-speed razor edge while accelerating straight toward the boss for a decisive counterattack. A blinding shockwave of crimson sparks detonates across the crumbling hall as their weapons collide mid-air in a high-speed clash of steel and iron. Digging his boots into the shattered ground, our favorite reincarnated sword god flashes a subtle smile beneath his hood, thoroughly enjoying the exhilarating adrenaline rush of swinging his weapon in a genuine, high-stakes battle once again. Smiling beneath his hood, our favorite sword god Reincarnate channels the sole remaining proof of his past life to unleash an unstoppable final strike. A blinding crimson shockwave erupts through the hall, tearing right through the boss's ultimate defense and sending Drake's lethal blades clattering uselessly onto the stone floor. Towering over his stunned opponent like an unshakable god of war, Nameless brings his trusty iron pipe crashing down with absolute finality. The sheer kinetic force creates a colossal explosion of red aura that completely drains Drake's remaining health bar, leaving the boss thoroughly defeated face down in the rubble. A glowing system symbol pops up to announce the official dungeon clear, rewarding our victorious swordmaster with his very first fragment of order. Not a bad haul for a day's work using a piece of rusty plumbing. Meanwhile, the livestream chat goes absolutely wild over the world first clear, with hyped viewers worshipping his Muzu skill while a fan named Josleeson Assassin drops a massive 100,000 won donation. Nameless politely thanks his generous donor, still adjusting to the loud world of online gaming. Glancing over at his stream overlay, our cool-headed protagonist suddenly freezes in sheer disbelief as he notices his live viewer count skyrocketing up to 447. Turns out beating a lethal dungeon boss with an iron pipe makes for elite entertainment. After clearing out the White Lotus troop hideout, our reincarnated veteran swordmaster opens his streaming system interface and spots something far more shocking than any boss fight. His live view count has suddenly surged way past his total follower count, leaving him thoroughly stunned. He stares at the floating hologram in complete disbelief before his entire face turns beet red with embarrassment. Who would have thought that a guy capable of casually slicing through elite enemies could get completely flustered by a few hundred people watching him online? Flashbacks of his friend Kim Tae-woo echo in his head, reminding him to stay humble and never get hung up on viewer numbers when a crowd arrives. But holding back his smug smile proves utterly impossible right now, especially as he starts wondering if he just pulled off a world-first clear. Meanwhile, the stream chat is going absolutely wild over his insanely high skill level. One viewer even donates 10,000 won to celebrate the fact that he defeated a dangerous target using a literal bent metal pipe, turning basic plumbing materials into the ultimate weapon. After politely thanking the viewer for the generous tip, he glances across the ruined mansion hallway and wonders why no NPC guards have arrived. The entire floor is littered with defeated bodies, yet the area remains completely deserted without a single soldier in sight. Chat hilariously explains that guard behavior in this game follows classic webtoon tropes. They stay completely invisible while high-level assassins tear through the building, only to spawn an entire army the moment a player attempts a low-stakes pickpocketing crime in public. As warm dusk light washes over the city, he steps out into the streets to wrap up his mission. However, a solitary hooded figure standing in the glowing sunset unexpectedly calls out his moniker, Nameless, bringing him to a sudden halt. He turns around with a wary expression to demand who is following him. In response, the stranger slowly reaches up, grabs the edge of their cloak, and pulls back their hood while confirming that he was indeed the one who handled Drake. The hood falls away to reveal Christina, instantly causing the live chat to burst into chaotic cheer over her stunning appearance. She hands over a heavy bag of coins, offering her sincere thanks for bringing them one step closer to freedom. Christina hands over a heavy pouch of coin reward, leaving our reincarnated master thoroughly baffled, since he never even officially accepted a quest to hunt down Drake. While he stares in disbelief at the unearned cash in his hands, the live stream chat completely loses its mind over Christina's stunning beauty and his unexpected payday. He casually admits to himself that he does not even have anywhere to spend in-game money, leaving poor Drake's ghost crying in the background over being eliminated for absolute free. When he turns to ask Christina about their next destination, she merely smiles back with a mysterious smirk, keeping her future plans strictly to herself. Bidding him farewell, Christina turns around and walks away into the glowing sunset while our swordmaster quietly watches her depart from afar. Once she vanishes into the bustling city streets, he turns back toward the ruined mansion to inspect the chaotic aftermath of his mission. Looking back at the completely demolished White Lotus hideout, he proudly asks if this total destruction counts as a successful stealth assassination. The stream chat immediately roasts his definition of stealth, but he ignores their teasing and prepares to end the broadcast while needy viewers desperately try dragging him back into the game. Politely signing off despite the audience's dramatic crying emojis, he disconnects from the virtual realm and opens his eyes back in reality. He sits up and takes a deep stretch inside his sleek VR gaming capsule, thoroughly exhausted after putting in a full day of virtual swordmaster work. As he steps out of the pod, he notices his friend Kim Tae-woo casually lounging on his bed with his feet on the sheets while watching a smartphone. Our protagonist immediately confronts him with an annoyed glare, demanding to know why his roommate feels entitled to make himself right at home on someone else's mattress. When Tae-woo shamelessly claims that his room belongs to him and his friend's room also belongs to him, an immediate off-screen wrestling match breaks out behind a comical censorship warning. A moment later, Tae-woo lies completely out cold on the floor, while our hero casually steps over him to ask about the stream's reception. Sprawled face down on the hardwood floor, Tae-woo notes that 440 concurrent viewers generated an insanely passionate response for a newcomer stream. Curious to see the chat's live reaction with his own eyes, our sword master snatches the smartphone right out of his friend's hand before he can even protest. On screen, viral clips of his terrifying metal pipe combat sequence are currently blowing up across online gaming forums. Impressed fans are already rallying around his new handle, declaring in community posts that anyone who dares to doubt the supreme skill of Nameless is officially an enemy of the whole forum. Our reincarnated swordmaster browses through online community forums, reading endless user posts about a rare item drop called the Fragment of Order. Players who cleared the beta remain thoroughly baffled by its existence, leaving our hero wondering what purpose a Musou mode exclusive reward could possibly serve. As a few bitter comments start popping up in the forums, Tae-woo slings an arm around his shoulder to drop some real-world advice. He reminds our protagonist that explosive popularity always brings along a wave of toxic haters, asking if he actually enjoyed receiving all that sudden internet attention. When our swordmaster asks how one even handles this level of sudden exposure, Tae-woo casually reveals that forum posts highlighting his combat clips have already pulled in over 10,000 viewers. The sheer scale of his viral fame completely outshines his humble livestream count. Standing alone in his bedroom, our protagonist wonders how he should navigate this newfound fame to build his online reputation. As he ponders his next move, a glowing light flashes on his desk computer, signaling fresh activity that immediately catches his attention. His phone suddenly buzzes with notifications pointing toward community discussions about a prominent gamer handle named Alpaca. Puzzled by the unfamiliar name trending all over the forums, our curious hero glances down at his screen to see what all the fuss is about. He watches a viral clip where the blonde streamer Alpaca dramatically pledges to keep challenging Drake in Musou mode to honor his master's legacy. Viewing the guy's grand declaration, our sword master smirks quietly to himself while questioning if this loudmouth can truly take responsibility for such massive hype. Finding Tae-woo lounging nearby, our protagonist asks if his friend is familiar with the streamer named Alpaca. After Tae-woo confirms they have collaborated a few times on past broadcasts, a sly grin spreads across our master's face as he asks his roommate for a special favor. Meanwhile, back inside the game, poor Alpaca sits slumped on a patch of grass after suffering his 13th straight defeat in the boss room. The ruthless live-stream chat pummels him with endless thumbs-down emojis, roasting his failed bare-handed challenge while the defeated gamer wallows in deep humiliation. Hearing something approach, Alpaca turns around to find his stream's fluffy mascot, an alpaca named Big Bang wearing a neat little bell. Trembling with exhaustion, the distressed streamer looks up at his adorable furry companion, hoping for a bit of wholesome emotional support during his lowest moment. Unfortunately for him, Big Bang shows zero sympathy and blasts a nasty spit attack right into Alpaca's screaming face. The live audience completely explodes with laughter at the hilarious betrayal, capping off another disastrous attempt for the unfortunate streamer. Still shaking off that lovely face full of alpaca spit, our distressed streamer tries to regain his composure while his relentless audience explodes with laughter. A troll donation pings on screen with a 10,000 won tip, mockingly reminding him of his grand pledge to serve whoever actually beats Drake in Musou mode. Spotting a shared link claiming the impossible boss run has already been conquered, Alpaca scoffs with absolute certainty. Convinced the viewer went out of their way to create a cheap fake just to fool him, our stubborn blonde streamer smirks and presses the link to prove them wrong. The video loads to reveal a legitimate first clear record featuring none other than the mysterious Nameless. Alpaca's smug expression instantly vanishes in absolute horror as he stares at the terrifying combat clip of the newcomer who casually accomplished what he failed 13 times in a row. Before he can even digest the reality of Nameless's victory, a glowing system envelope notification suddenly pops up right before his eyes. Shaken to his very core, Alpaca reaches out to open the mystery mail, nervously wondering what kind of challenge his friend Tae-woo and the legendary swordmaster set up. High above the bustling city streets inside the modern skyscraper of movie South Korea, company president Yves Pimos settles into his corner office for what he anticipates will be a smooth, relaxing morning. Reaching for a freshly poured mug of dark coffee, he prepares to start his daily routine in peace. Taking a slow, comfortable sip of his warm beverage, the corporate head thoroughly enjoys the rich, satisfying aroma of his morning brew. He sits back with a content smile, completely oblivious to the unexpected corporate catastrophe that is about to burst straight through his office doors. That brief moment of bliss is violently shattered when his panicked assistant barges into the room without knocking, causing the startled boss to spit coffee all over his desk. After an angry shouting match regarding basic workplace etiquette, the apologetic employee tries to calm his furious superior down. Demanding an immediate explanation for the chaos, Yves listens in shock as his worker urgently reveals that one of the game's legendary rulers was just defeated in a solo conquest. A heavy, suspenseful shadow instantly falls over the room as the president glares intently, demanding to know exactly which ruler was slain. The assistant confirms the fallen boss was Drake, causing the president's dark grimace to immediately melt away into a lazy sigh of relief. Remembering that Drake was notoriously the absolute weakest member among the high-ranking rulers, Yves casually dismisses the loss as an event that was long overdue. However, the employee warns that clearing a ruler drops a fragment of order, a hidden item that could potentially jeopardize their master project if players gather all 4 pieces. Yves flippantly brushes off the warning, reminding his subordinate that he personally programmed the internal safeguards to prevent players from acquiring the necessary skills. Defeating the remaining high-tier rulers requires a specific prerequisite skill that is locked behind obscure progression paths. With intense skill gates, hidden unlock requirements, and relentless grinding sessions exceeding 100 continuous hours that leave players exhausted, the developer remains confident that no normal user can break through their system design. Despite online gaming forums overflowing with angry posts complaining about the impossible unlock conditions, the assistant remains deeply anxious about an unpredictable anomaly. He nervously brings up a live streamer who managed to clear the boss, frantically pleading with his boss not to ignore the potential danger. Instead of panicking over the news, Yves suddenly stops ear-picking as a sharp realization strikes him. His eyes narrow in suspicion as he sternly asks how his worker knew about a live broadcast, instantly catching on to the fact that his assistant has been slacking off and watching streams during work hours. Caught red-handed, the sweating employee stammers uncontrollably while the president erupts in fury, loudly threatening to dock his monthly salary. The terrified assistant begs for mercy before fleeing the room, leaving Yves leaning over his desk in pure exasperation, venting about his staff's complete lack of professional discipline. With the noisy employee finally gone, the president's anger slowly dissolves into a lingering cloud of unease. He stands motionless at his desk, staring out toward the open sky, while silently praying that no insanely dedicated player will actually manage to collect every fragment and disrupt their grand plan. High inside a sunlit apartment studio, blonde content creator Alpaca reminds his skeptical roommate Suha about their upcoming collaboration stream, scheduled for that evening. Suha folds his arms in mild annoyance, barely remembering the plan and questioning whether bringing in an untested player is worth their broadcasting time. Staring at the official announcement posted online for their joint stream, Suha doubts this unknown creator will yield any fresh competitive talent for their team. However, Alpaca quickly interrupts his teammate's cynical breakdown, insisting there is one massive detail about their special guest that Suha is completely overlooking. Bursting with theatrical enthusiasm, Alpaca dramatically reveals that Seojun isn't joining as a simple guest, but is being honored as a featured gaming master. He thrusts his hands toward the sky like a priest praising a legendary lord, while Suha stares back at him with utter second-hand embarrassment. Suha remains entirely unimpressed by the theatrical hype, pointing out that the rookie has only been broadcasting for a few days in a stealth action title. Pushing the phone away with disdain, the stern gamer flatly declares he only respects proven athletes competing in the official pro league. Seeking a quick fix for Seojun's hardware handicap, Alpaca asks to lend Suha's expensive, high-spec VR capsule for the upcoming stream. Suha immediately rejects the request, scoffing at the ridiculous idea of a self-proclaimed master being crippled by low synchronization stats before turning his back. As Suha exits toward his room promising to monitor the live stream reactions from afar, Alpaca slumps back onto the couch in complete frustration. He mutters about his roommate's overly prickly attitude, wondering why his friend is always so intensely critical over simple gaming events. However, as Alpaca ponders Suha's harsh critique, a sudden chill runs down his spine. He suddenly realizes that if Seojun conquered a legendary boss single-handedly while hindered by terrible equipment, the rookie's real-world combat instincts and physical prowess must be downright terrifying. Imagining his upcoming visitor as an unhinged knife-licking mobster who might stuff him straight into a barrel, Alpaca breaks into a nervous cold sweat. Regretting his spontaneous collab invitation, the terrified streamer desperately pre-dials emergency services on his phone just in case things turn violent. The chime of the doorbell shatters the heavy silence, sending a sudden wave of panic through Alpaca as he prepares for the absolute worst. But when the door opens, all his fears instantly evaporate into shock as Jin Seojun greets him with a dazzling, idol-like smile. Alpaca suffers a complete existential crisis seeing Seojun's naturally flawless face without any avatar customization magic. While Taewoo warmly welcomes their guest inside, Alpaca silently weeps over the painful hours he spent digitally sculpting his own avatar's jawline and nose just to look presentable. Shaking off his crisis, the host guides their visitor through the spacious entryway. Stepping past the front hall, Seojun looks around the bright studio in awe, surprised to discover that what appeared to be an ordinary house from the outside conceals such a sleek, high-end modern interior. Stepping into the dedicated streaming room, Jin Seojun takes in the impressive array of high-end equipment, admiring how meticulously the professional workspace is separated from the residential quarters. While Alpaca offers to prepare fresh coffee for their guest, his roommate continues teasing him about their embarrassing earlier bet, until a sudden opening door interrupts their petty banter. A tall, broad-shouldered man steps into the studio, introducing himself as Lee Soo-won, Alpaca's dedicated manager and primary video editor. When Seojun politely greets him in return, the editor grips his hand in a surprisingly intense, squeezing handshake, leaving the former swordmaster to wonder if this sudden display of physical strength is an intentional attempt to show off dominance right out of the gate. Maintaining his heavy grip, Soo-won praises the young streamer's extraordinary gaming talents, questioning how someone who only recently started playing could possess such ridiculously sharp instincts. Flashing a sly, quiet smile, Seojun leans in to share a confidential secret, revealing that he actually competed in the Pro League brief years ago, leaving Alpaca standing frozen in background shock with a tray of snacks. Curious about his past competitive career, Soo-won asks what official rank he held back then, only to react with heavy skepticism when Seojun nonchalantly claims he was merely a silver rank. Refusing to believe that a retired casual player could perform such godlike combat feats after years away, the skeptical manager immediately challenges Seojun to an impromptu sparring match in the virtual training arena. Munching on cookies from the snack tray, Alpaca breaks into cheeky, playful laughter, strongly advising his editor to back down from the challenge for his own sanity. Soo-won's brow twitches with visible irritation as he sternly asks if his editor genuinely expects him to lose, but the streamer casually clarifies that the issue goes far beyond a simple win or loss. Lowering his voice to an intensely serious tone, Alpaca demands absolute secrecy, warning his manager that whatever he reveals next must never leave the room. He warns that trying to fight Seojun in the training arena is just as suicidal as challenging the game's legendary Stage 10 boss, causing Soo-won's eyes to widen in total horror as the terrifying implications sink in. Safwan stands paralyzed in pure shock as the staggering truth finally hits him, realizing that the mythical, godlike combatant codenamed Unknown is sitting right before him on the couch in normal clothes. Meanwhile, the former swordmaster casually rubs his chin with an awkward expression, completely unfazed by the sudden identity reveal currently blowing his host's minds. The high-stakes virtual duel reaches its absolute climax as heavy steel blades crash together in a blinding burst of azure energy. Seojun effortlessly parries every high-speed assault from the elite AI training bot, reading its attack patterns like an open book before unleashing a single devastating counterstrike that completely shatters the opponent's sword into a shower of flying metal shards. Watching the dramatic replay unfurl on a tiny smartphone screen, the guys in the lounge are left completely frozen in utter disbelief. Seojun didn't just scrape by against the notorious AI Shin Hyan. He delivered a total one-sided beatdown without taking a single clean hit, casually standing over his vanquished opponent like an unstoppable max-level raid boss while the rest of the room loses their minds. Their stunned silence immediately transforms into wild, hyperactive celebration. One of the friends begins bragging about Seojun's insane swagger as if he executed those god-tier combos himself, while the blonde streamer breaks out in a cold sweat, suddenly feeling an overwhelming wave of mental pressure about sharing a live collab stream with such a terrifyingly dominant swordmaster who just humiliated an AI. Right in the middle of all the cheering, Lee Soo-han slowly rises from his seat with a dark, menacing shadow veiling his face. The cheerful vibe vanishes in an instant as he ominously looms over Seo-jun on the couch, leaving the rest of the gang panicking in utter fear and frantically preparing to break up what they assume is an impending physical brawl. Instead of throwing a punch, Soo-han abruptly drops to his hands and knees in a dramatic prostrate bow, loudly declaring Seo-jun his undisputed master and big bro. The rest of the squad lets out a massive sigh of relief, realizing Soo-han operates on a simple personal code where supreme gaming skill demands total obedience, leaving Seo-jun thoroughly baffled by the unexpected worship. Soo-han thumps his chest with unyielding fervor, begging to drop formal honorifics and serve him loyally from this moment forward. Seo-jun sits frozen in awkward mental anguish, quietly remembering that if his past life as a supreme sword god is taken into account, he should technically be revered as an ancient grandfather figure rather than just a local gaming big brother. While the living room devolves back into chaotic laughter and playful teasing over Soo-han's instant loyalty, the blonde streamer finds himself tuning out the noise. Gazing at Seo-jun being playfully tackled on the sofa, an old memory from 7 long years ago suddenly resurfaces, igniting a lingering suspicion about Seo-jun's true identity from the original early virtual reality era. He seriously wonders if Seo-jun could be that exact legendary player who dominated the VR world 7 years ago before mysteriously vanishing without a trace. But before his thoughts can dig any deeper, Seo-jun casually locks his friend in a chokehold, and Soo-han interrupts the chaos to announce that their big bro's live stream is officially about to begin. Shake himself out of his trance, the blonde streamer brushes off his wild theory and decides he is simply overthinking things. He calls out to Seo-jun to wrap up the chaotic wrestling match and get ready, while Seo-jun nonchalantly grabs a box of tissues and steps up to kick off their highly anticipated collaborative streaming broadcast. With his fanatic devotion fully unlocked, Lee Soo-han enthusiastically ushers his newly acknowledged big bro straight toward his state-of-the-art gaming capsule. He proudly gestures to the high-tech VR rig like a glorified game show host presenting a grand prize, while the blonde streamer slaps his face in utter disbelief at Soo-han's astonishingly fast turnabout. The live broadcast officially kicks off as the blonde streamer's cheerful VR avatar pops up on screen with a bright greeting for his audience. But over in the lounge, as Seo-jun and the squad cluster around a smartphone screen to watch, the chat text immediately turns ruthless, demanding Alpaca move his face out of the frame so they can see. Watching the live stream from his computer desk, another viewer chuckles as the audience brutally confirms they only tuned in for the special guest. The relentless honesty leaves poor Alpaca sagging over his VR desk completely deflated, wiping away a tiny theatrical tear as his streamer ego takes a massive direct hit. Alpaca briefly brightens up with starry eyes when a returning viewer comments, naively believing someone finally came just to see him. But his mood instantly turns into explosive rage when he reads that they only want another grueling endurance run. After swiftly banning the troll from chat, he winks at the camera to get back on track. Striking a heroic pose amidst dramatic background flames, Alpaca passionately announces that they are playing a challenging soul-like title today. He grandly hypes up his special guest instructor, boasting to the entire live audience that this mysterious master will personally teach him how to pull off legendary high-level plays. Alpaca dramatically commands the spotlight to shine on the stage for streamer Jin Seo-jun, building up the entrance like a major championship reveal. But as the blinding beam of light illuminates the wooden platform, it lands squarely on a completely empty wooden stool, with no sign of Seo-jun anywhere in sight. A heavy, awkward silence washes over the broadcast as Alpaca stands completely dumbfounded next to the vacant seat. The chat instantly explodes with relentless teasing, accusing him of inventing an imaginary friend or hosting an awkward phone collab, sending the blonde streamer into a cold sweat of pure panic. Frantically flailing his arms in anger, Alpaca screams at his chat while viewers troll him with fake claims about unpaid fees and wrong dates. To defend his pride and prove he isn't crazy, he shoves his private chat logs right onto the screen to show that he genuinely arranged a real collab with Jin Seo-jun. Over in the room, the guys stare at the computer monitor in total shock as a brand new direct message pings on screen from Jin Seo-jun himself. It turns out the legendary sword god is actually a complete VR rookie who sheepishly admits he has no idea how to navigate to Alpaca's private game lobby. Seo-jun's timid message politely asks for a lobby invite, followed by a cute he, causing the stream chat to erupt into hysterical laughter over the hilarious contrast. Left with no choice but to laugh at the ridiculous situation, Alpaca grins with an embarrassed, sweaty twitch as the true reality of his grand collab sinks in. After Alpaca finally sends the lobby invite, Jin Seojun makes his grand entrance into the virtual world with a polite wave and a humble apology for being late. The two streamers settle down on straw bales in a peaceful grassy field, where Alpaca graciously tries to ease the tension by reminding his audience that Seojun is technically still a game beginner. However, the live stream chat has absolutely no chill today. A relentless barrage of savage viewer comments instantly pelts Alpaca from all directions, mocking his poor preparation and mercilessly roasting his gaming skills. Left nursing a metaphorical black eye, the poor blonde streamer sighs, realizing that getting bullied by chat has officially become his channel's main attraction. He muses on how every broadcast has its own unique vibe, from strict channels where dominant hosts rule with an iron fist, to wholesome streams that keep things squeaky clean. Even while being roasted alive, Alpaca admits he still prefers his own chaotic, laid-back atmosphere where fans can speak their minds freely. When the chat turns its ruthless flames onto Seojun, the ancient sword god awkwardly cowers on his hay bale, sheepishly asking the young viewers to respect their elders. Alpaca quickly steps in to clap his hands and redirect the topic, explaining that his upcoming brutal endurance run is all because Seojun slayed the mighty Drake. A rogue viewer drops a donation just to taunt Alpaca about his impossible pledge, triggering a fiery threat of an instant ban from the annoyed host. Seeing Seojun quietly giggling in the background, Alpaca immediately calls him out for laughing, reminding his guest that his divine dragon slaying is the sole reason for this entire mess. Seojun gently nods and admits he feels a slight sense of responsibility, making Alpaca swell with pride. But Seojun instantly follows up with a devastating low blow, smiling warmly as he confesses his true mistake was not realizing someone out there would foolishly declare the Drake impossible to slay on day 2. The chat completely explodes with laughter at Alpaca getting utterly destroyed by his own guest. Watching Seojun seamlessly handle the massive crowd of nearly 20,000 viewers, Alpaca is thoroughly impressed by how remarkably calm and relaxed his guest remains. Realizing Seojun is actually having fun, the blonde streamer clasps his hands together in a desperate plea, begging his master to rescue him from his past embarrassments. With Seojun happily agreeing to help, Alpaca flashily kicks off the main event, laying out their stream agenda for the day. He announces they will be diving straight into the soul-like action titled Dawn of the Assassins for a masterclass lesson, before casually asking Seojun what basic skill tree abilities he has upgraded so far. Seojun scratches his cheek and blankly reveals he hasn't unlocked or leveled up a single active or passive skill in the entire game. Alpaca's jaw drops in pure, unadulterated horror as he realizes this legendary monster has been destroying high-level bosses completely barehanded, leaving the veteran streamer utterly speechless at such insane naked pro behavior. When our resident sword master nonchalantly drops a bombshell about his hidden skills, the blonde streamer's face completely collapses into a state of sheer, unadulterated panic. After boasting so confidently about high-level combat tactics earlier, watching his partner casually invalidate standard game logic leaves Goldie looking like he just witnessed an impossible glitch in reality itself. Desperate to make sense of the situation, Goldie whirls around to demand why Seojun kept such an insane capability hidden for so long. Seojun simply offers a smooth, unbothered smirk in response, explaining with ultimate nonchalance that he never bothered using the skill simply because he never encountered a combat situation that actually required it. That level of casual flex leaves our poor host sweating bullets while the stream chat erupts into pure chaos. Watching his viewer count skyrocket past 25,000, Goldie feels the mounting pressure, inwardly sweating as he realizes that ever since Seojun joined the broadcast, every single planned event has spiraled completely out of his control. Forcing on a bright professional streamer smile for the camera, Goldie quickly pivots to regain control of the stream pacing. He pulls up a saved video clip showing an assassin delivering a precise strike along an enemy weapon's structural seam, instantly shattering the blade to demonstrate the exact quest unlock requirement for weakness detection. Transitioning into full teacher mode, Goldie breaks down the underlying game lore for his viewers using clear visual diagrams. He explains that every single weapon crafted in the game world possesses a specific weak point known as a seam, which allows a knowledgeable fighter to easily split the object in two during high-speed combat. From broadswords and heavy spears to Morningstar maces and daggers, every weapon type conceals these critical flaws waiting to be discovered. Holding up 2 fingers, Goldie reveals to his audience that out of the 10 required weapon seams needed to fully unlock the skill, he has personally managed to locate only 2 so far. He details his current progress to the viewers, recalling how the first seam was accidentally identified on a rapier during the battle footage they just watched. The second seam, belonging to a standard longsword, was uncovered through a specific side quest hint provided by an in-game non-player character. Although Goldie admits he still has no idea what the fully unlocked skill actually does, his tone suddenly shifts into dramatic hype. He points excitedly at Seojun, announcing to the entire stream that our reincarnated swordmaster claims he can analyze the system logic and figure out the hidden rules behind all weapon seams. As stream viewers flood the live chat with absolute skepticism and label the claim a total stretch, Goldie chuckles and reassures the crowd. Capitalizing on the rising tension, he officially launches a live stream wager on whether Seojun can crack the code before today's broadcast ends, prompting a massive rain of gold coin donations. Goldie officially opens the channel point prediction wager, laying out bet options on whether Seojun can locate multiple weapon seams before today's broadcast concludes. Skeptical stream viewers immediately rush to place safe bets against our reincarnated swordmaster, leaving Seojun looking mildly bewildered by the sudden flurry of betting activity flooding the chat overlay. Curious about the unfamiliar streaming jargon, Seojun asks Goldie to clarify what safe bets and underdog gambles actually mean in this context. Goldie happily breaks down the system mechanics, explaining that while safe bets represent predictable outcomes with low payouts, high-risk underdog options offer massive reward multipliers for viewers brave enough to bet against common logic. Hearing that predicting 4 or more seams yields an incredible 100-fold payout, Seojun turns directly to the stream screen and boldly instructs the entire chat to bet everything on him. His extreme confidence immediately prompts a 10,000 won donation from an anxious viewer who just gambled 3 full years of saved channel points on Seojun's claim. Unfazed by the viewers' sheer panic over risking their long-accumulated points, Seojun offers a smooth, confident smirk right at the broadcast camera. He casually reassures his nervous supporter that their bold gamble is guaranteed to pay off, boasting that they are about to walk away with a massive 100 times return on their investment. The stream shifts into live gameplay footage of the quest scenario titled Dawn of the Assassination, establishing a dramatic moonlit scene outside a grand estate mansion. The quiet night air is suddenly shattered as a brutal combatant lands a sharp strike across an opponent's face, drawing first blood in the middle of the cobblestone courtyard. Standing over his bleeding opponent with a sadistic smile, the noble attacker holds his blood-stained rapier at the ready. The wounded victim drops to his knees in utter terror, trembling violently while desperately begging for his life, only for the cruel nobleman to unleash another sudden flurry of razor-sharp thrusts. Under an ominous crimson sky, the cruel attacker mockingly tells his victim that he will spare his life if he can somehow manage to run away. Terrified by the sadistic offer, the battered target scrambles frantically across the stone pavement on hands and knees while his pursuer casually stalks behind him. Observing the one-sided chase from a dark high vantage point in the trees, Goldie identifies the cruel attacker as Louis Neville, the son of the ruler of the far northeast. Recognizing Louis as the combatant from earlier stream clips, Seojun decides it is time to carefully examine the attacker's skills and weapon properties. Seojun activates a system inspection window over the rapier, analyzing its baseline crafting quality and stats to check for structural weaknesses. Meanwhile, Goldie watches intently as an assassin leaps from the rooftops down into the blood-stained courtyard, monitoring every subtle movement from their hidden perch above. Turning back to address the live audience with his bright streamer smile, Goldie cautions his chat that theoretical knowledge and actual combat execution are two completely different things. He emphasizes that even if a fighter knows where a weapon seam is located, hitting that microscopic spot on a moving blade mid-fight takes extraordinary precision. Just when our blonde host finishes warning his viewers about how ridiculously hard it is to strike a moving weapon seam during high-speed combat, the stored video footage shows the assassin effortlessly landing a clean blow. The precise strike instantly shatters the enemy's blade in mid-air, flawlessly fulfilling the quest unlock requirement right in front of the stream audience. As Seojun casually clears the first seam unlock requirement on his very first try, Goldie stands completely stunned by how effortless our resident swordmaster made it look. Reminding Seojun that a single success does not prove his theory across all weapon types, Goldie watches intently as the mystery deepens. Unbothered by the lingering doubts, Seojun offers a confident smile and declares that his overarching rule governing weapon seams has already been proven beyond any doubt. He smugly asserts that he now fully understands the internal logic of the game's crafting design. The stream chat immediately erupts with skepticism, accusing our reincarnated swordmaster of peddling snake oil just to manipulate the channel point betting odds. But right as Goldie tries calming his rowdy chat, estate guards suddenly burst into the courtyard shouting intruder alerts, giving Seojun the ultimate high-stakes stage to prove his bold claim live on camera. Recalling memories from his legendary past life, Seojun reflects on how ancient Shaolin monks possessed divine spiritual insight that allowed them to physically visualize physical flaws in any weapon. Although Seojun lacked that specific monk ability, his decades of high-level martial mastery allowed him to develop an equivalent technique based on deep combat intuition. Instead of relying on supernatural vision, our sword deity explains that one simply needs to read the blacksmith's original intent, pinpointing exactly where structural stress concentrates when an item is forged. By understanding how the creator shaped the metal, finding the weakness becomes a matter of pure logical deduction. Focusing entirely on the incoming guard's heavy metal shield, Seojun calmly closes his eyes right in the middle of battle to sense the structural flow. While skeptical stream viewers spam the chat assuming he has surrendered, Seojun cleanly parries the incoming assault blindfolded, instantly revealing the glowing yellow seam line on the shield's face. Tracing the unseen seam line with terrifying accuracy, Seojun glides his blade directly along the shield's structural flaw like a master surgeon executing a high-speed incision. Under the extreme pressure of his strike, the heavy iron shield violently splits down the center line with a blinding flash of energy. The shattered shield completely erupts into a cloud of sharp flying shrapnel, scattering broken armor fragments across the cobblestone courtyard. Seojun completes his follow-through swing with effortless grace, standing victorious over his disarmed opponent while standard game defense mechanics are thoroughly shattered. Goldie's face completely collapses into sheer unadulterated panic as sharp shield debris rains down all around him. Grabbing his head in utter disbelief, our golden host screams at the camera in total awe, labeling Seojun an absolute monster for destroying an enemy weapon seam with his eyes closed while the stream chat erupts into absolute chaos. As stream viewers flood the chat calling our resident swordmaster an absolute genius, Goldie rushes over to Seojun in sheer disbelief, demanding to know how he pulled off such an impossible feat. Before our flustered host can even process what happened, a salty viewer donates 1,001 to accuse the pair of rigging the entire demonstration in advance. Seojun merely raises an eyebrow, completely unbothered by the sudden drama. The blonde streamer completely loses his mind over the bet outcome, screaming that the game must be scripted while Jin Seojun stands by unbothered. Seojun calmly reminds the panicked viewers that he told them to trust his call from the start, smirking as he points out that the safe bettors aren't the only ones taking a massive hit today. The channel point prediction results show that a mere 1% of viewers actually believed Seojun could locate 4 or more hidden seams during today's stream. Teasing the chaotic chat room, our smug swordmaster playfully asks if all the loud gamblers complaining right now happen to be part of that microscopic victorious group. As the chat drowns in collective misery, Seojun casually strolls away, fully aware that shared failure brings its own strange comfort. Watching 30,000 concurrent viewers flood the stream, the co-host realizes this swordmaster isn't just an elite player, but a natural entertainer who can mock his audience without losing their favor. Stepping in to calm the frantic stream chat, the blonde host tries to restore order before turning to Seojun to demand how he built such insane combat skills. As viewers flood the chat box asking about his actual profession in real life, Seojun casually scratches his head, preparing to drop an unexpectedly plain answer. Seojun casually claims he is just an ordinary guy in his 20s, causing his co-host to freeze in absolute disbelief. The host instantly calls bluff, shouting that someone with such godlike combat mastery can never be called ordinary, right as Seojun attempts to introduce himself to the stream under his real name, Jin Seojun. A dramatic aura fills the scene as chat desperately asks whether Seojun is actually handsome in real life. His co-host drops a massive bombshell, revealing that Seojun used zero character customization for his avatar, meaning his sparkly, jaw-dropping in-game appearance is 100% authentic to his real-world face. The stream chat immediately erupts in pure envy, angrily demanding that something about this ridiculously talented gamer must be flawed. The host processes the tragic reality of life's unfairness, standing in solemn silence while a dark loading bar of pure petty vengeance finishes processing in his head. Driven by unhinged jealousy, the co-host draws his sword while chat hilariously speculates if he's about to catch a ban for friendly fire. Channeling the spirit of a rabid hound, he threatens Seojun with a permanent ban, but Seojun calmly restrains his arm and shuts down the dramatic meltdown without taking any damage. The golden-haired streamer quickly folds under Seo Jun's calm, immovable grip, deciding to let the friendly fire threat slide just this once. With peace comically restored and his life spared, our smug swordmaster casually claps his hands to steer the broadcast right back to business. Eager to decode the mystery, the blonde host presses Seojun to reveal the secrets behind his godlike combat reflexes. But when our hero casually admits he doesn't actually see the weakness seams popping up on enemies, the host's jaw drops in complete and utter confusion. Seojun strikes a grand, dramatic posture, casting a heavy shadow over his eyes as if preparing to drop ancient martial wisdom. With hilarious deadpan confidence, he announces that he pinpoints the flaws simply because he is an absolute genius, leaving his co-host utterly speechless. As the chat room erupts over the shameless flex, the blonde host melts slumps into a pathetic puddle of defeat, shaking as he begs the godly swordmaster to show a little mercy to normal human beings. Chuckling at his co-host's hilarious breakdown, Seojun offers a genuine explanation, revealing he simply deduced what the game developers intended when building the combat system. The streamer stammers in utter disbelief, amazed that anyone could read the developers' minds after observing only 2 minor combat examples. Replaying his recent high-speed combat encounters, the swordmaster explains that basic parrying clears out normal mobs easily enough. Hitting a seam is significantly harder and only destroys an opponent's weapon without dealing direct bonus damage, making the advanced technique completely unnecessary against low-level enemies. Mapping out his strategic deduction, Seojun concludes that the seam mechanic was designed strictly for high-tier boss encounters. The blonde streamer readily agrees, pointing out that heavily armored raid bosses like Drake are practically impossible to defeat through standard defensive parries alone. Before anyone can process the tactical breakdown, Seojun casually drops a massive bombshell, announcing he intends to slay the area's ruler immediately. Stream chat erupts into absolute panic as terrified underdog bettors weep, terrified that this clear-eyed madman is about to incinerate their remaining points. Smirking at the rising tide of chaos, Seojun turns to Alpaca with an evil glint in his eye. He casually proposes launching another channel point prediction, betting the entire audience on whether he can shatter the ruler's elite equipment before the stream ends. Flashing a dazzling protagonist-grade smile that instantly captivates the entire stream, our confident swordmaster tells the panicking gamblers to take a deep breath. He urges them to trust his absurd skill level and follow his lead right into the ultimate boss fight. Stepping into the crumbling courtyard amidst falling stone debris, our calm swordmaster faces his ultimate target. A heavy shadow looms through the rising dust as the area's ruler steps forward, fully prepared to unleash absolute vengeance and avenge his fallen kin in a high-stakes arena duel. Roaring that he will cut off Seojun's head to avenge his fallen son, the formidable royalist leader, Richard Neville, charges forward in a blind rage. He heaves his massive broadsword upward and brings it crashing down with earth-shattering power, intending to crush our smug hero into fine paste. Seojun glides out of harm's way with effortless grace, treating the boss's lethal swing like a light morning breeze. As faint yellow seam lines flash across the arena floor, the bewildered ruler stammers in utter shock, completely unable to comprehend how his deadly attack missed its target. Demanding to know what kind of trick Seojun just played, Richard furiously unleashes another wide slash across the courtyard. Seojun avoids the heavy blow without breaking a sweat, while his anxious co-host watches from high up on the balcony, lamenting that he still cannot spot a single weakness seam anywhere. As the fight continues, the golden-haired streamer begins to suspect Seojun might actually fail to locate the seam this time around. But right in the middle of dodging, Seojun calls him out for doubting his skills, leaving the terrified host trembling after being overheard from such an extreme distance. Scrambling through the frantic stream chat, the host warns Seojun that Richard's gear is forged from special high-tier materials and might not even possess a seam at all. Unmoved by the terrifying chat rumors, our smug swordmaster merely smirks and gets ready to test the theory for himself. Determined to verify the chat's claim, Seojun locks his sharp golden eyes directly onto his towering foe. Bright yellow seam lines immediately ignite across the boss's body and heavy weapon, proving that no top-tier boss equipment in this game is ever safe from an elite player's keen eyes. Richard roars that the same party trick won't work on him twice, swinging his broadsword down with a raging flame aura. But Seojun calmly duck-slides straight under the devastating blow, aligning his rapier tip perfectly with the freshly exposed seam point on the boss's heavy shoulder armor. With absolute surgical precision, Seojun drives his blade straight into the glowing seam point on the leader's shoulder. Golden shockwaves burst from the impact as the boss's defense shatters, sending the golden-haired streamer into an absolute state of screeching frenzy from his balcony vantage point. With surgical speed and deadpan precision, our hero drives his rapier straight into the glowing seam point on the boss's heavy armor. As yellow shockwaves rip through the crumbling courtyard, Seo-jun glides effortlessly through the air to complete his high-speed assault, triggering a rapid series of system progress ticks for destroying enemy gear through weakness seams. The strike erupts in a blinding flare of golden energy, utterly shattering Richard Neville's top-tier defenses into flying debris. As the mighty royalist leader coughs up blood and collapses under the force of the impact, our golden-haired host clutches his head and screams in total mental breakdown, completely unable to process the divine combat level unfolding before his eyes. With the fight wrapped up and the elite weakness detection skill officially unlocked on his system interface, Seo-jun casually rests his heavy blade over his shoulder. Turning back with a handsome, nonchalant smile, our smug swordmaster playfully corrects his earlier mistake for the stream, explaining that it wasn't just the enemy's gear that contained seams, but the boss's body was riddled with weak points the entire time. Emerging from the high-tech VR capsule, with a heavy sigh, Jin Seo-jun catches his breath after another intense gaming session. The capsule hatch glides open to reveal our resident sword god back in reality, looking mildly exhausted yet entirely unfazed by his own absurd talent. Nearby, his overly dedicated fanboy stands waiting, ready to shower his idol with endless praise. The fanboy immediately drops into a rigid 90-degree bow, expressing ultimate reverence and thanking Seo-jun for letting him borrow the capsule. But things take a weird turn when he starts caressing the machine with unsettling affection, claiming it learned from Seo-jun's greatness. Seo-jun can only stare in absolute disgust as his friend makes it uncomfortably personal. Stepping out into the main room, Seo-jun finds another buddy comfortably lounging on the couch with a remote and a mountain of snacks. The guy casually reveals he canceled his own stream just to watch Seo-jun's big collaboration live. That subtle reminder jolts Seo-jun back to reality, realizing everyone is already waiting for him to step in front of the camera. Over on the livestream, host Alpaca is getting utterly roasted by his chat room, with angry viewers demanding he get off screen and bring out Seo-jun. Before Alpaca can even finish begging his audience to calm down, a giant mute icon flies through the air and slaps him directly across the face, silencing the poor streamer instantly. Finally regaining control of his broadcast with a dramatic smirk, Alpaca leans right into the microphone to build up maximum anticipation. With an over-the-top flourish of his arm, he officially introduces the main event everyone has been desperately waiting for, shouting Jin Seo-jun's name to the hyped-up chat room. Seo-jun opens the door and calmly gives a simple hello, stepping into the room to face the virtual audience. Meanwhile, Alpaca throws on a pair of sleek sunglasses and crosses his arms, looking like a proud talent manager who just unveiled the ultimate prize. Appearing on the broadcast, Seo-jun politely introduces himself as travel streamer Jin Seo-jun. His striking good looks immediately blind the chat room, proving that this face needs absolutely no digital filters or special effects to look completely flawless. Alpaca proudly asks the viewers to admire his guest's handsome face, but the chat immediately turns their weapons on him instead. Viewers flame Alpaca's looks and mock his weight gain, delivering a wave of emotional damage so brutal it physically pierces the streamer right through the chest while Seo-jun's sweat drops. Completely devastated by his stream chat's brutal roasts, Alpaca staggers off camera to nurse his wounded pride in peace. Seo-jun smoothly slides into the main gaming chair with a warm smile, reassuring the viewers and announcing that their next event is a team dinner. A heavy donation pops up from a viewer dramatically declaring their love, but Seo-jun politely asks if the fan is actually a girl. The chat room immediately erupts into chaos, roasting the donor and spamming male symbols across the broadcast. Another viewer donates to ask about his weakness detection technique, curious how he managed to break a ruler's heavy shoulder armor during his recent battle. Seo-jun listens calmly while the audience eagerly awaits an explanation of his godly skill. Seo-jun explains that weakness detection highlights structural fault lines, allowing a strike to destroy gear upon impact, but rather than giving away all his combat secrets for free, our master sword god shamelessly tells everyone to tune into his own channel tomorrow. Moving into a rapid-fire Q&A session, Seo-jun fields random questions about game mechanics and his simple daily workout routine. When asked why he chose this specific game for his debut, he admits a close friend recommended it to him. The scene shifts to a lively restaurant where delicious pork sizzles over a hot grill for their team dinner. Seo-jun's friend proudly raises his tongs to reveal he was the one who recommended the game, prompting chat to realize why he canceled his own stream. He slings an arm around Seo-jun, cheerfully explaining they have been close since high school and currently live together. The chat instantly puts two and two together, realizing Seojun is the infamous, bizarre roommate always featured in his friend's stories. To prove it to the viewers, the friend pulls out his phone with barbecue tongs to broadcast an old clip. Seojun panics and shoves his friend's face away in desperation, but the hilarious receipts are already playing for the audience. The archived clip features his roommate giggling to his chat about living with a guy who looks like a cool genius, but routinely does the most absurd, tech-illiterate things behind closed doors. The clip recounts Seojun washing his dirty phone under a running faucet with soap because he assumed it was waterproof. But the real masterpiece is Seojun crouching beside a supercomputer VR capsule, frantically trying to cool it down with a tiny handheld fan. Pushed past his limit by his roommate's embarrassing stream receipts, Seojun decides it is time for some swift retribution. Armed with a pair of hot barbecue tongs, our embarrassed sword god turns his friend into tonight's main course, giving the delighted chat room a front row seat to some real-time roommate discipline. Once the chaotic meal comes to an end, the group unwinds in the living room to celebrate a wildly successful broadcast. Alpaca warmly thanks Seojun for making the collab such a hit, while modestly waving off praise and insisting he was the one who learned from the master sword god. Steering the conversation toward future plans, Alpaca asks if Seojun genuinely intends to launch his own iTube channel soon. Seojun admits he wants to give it a shot despite his total lack of experience, prompting Alpaca to point out that any serious creator needs a dedicated editor. Slapping his hand onto the table with sudden dramatic flair, Alpaca enthusiastically offers to connect Seojun with an expert editor he knows personally. Surprised by the unexpected offer, Seojun leans in with genuine curiosity, wondering who this mysterious candidate might be as their memorable evening officially wraps up. On a quiet evening, our Swordmaster protagonist pops open a cold beer on his balcony, taking a refreshing sip as the night sky sets in. He gazes into the distance, pondering the career advice his gaming buddies tossed his way. He remembers their cozy dinner chat, where his blonde friend enthusiastically pushed him to launch an iTube channel for massive audience growth and sweet ad revenue. However, his friend cautioned that a channel's real success ultimately relies on having a skilled editor. Curious about how their team operated, Seojun had asked how Suhan ended up becoming Alpaca's editor in the first place. Suhan confessed he was just a mundane office worker who happened to stumble upon Alpaca's hilarious, unedited streams that were gathering dust online. Seeing untouched potential in those raw gameplay clips, Suhan took initiative and messaged Alpaca directly. The revelation shocked the entire table when they realized Suhan actually quit his stable corporate job just to edit for an absolute nobody. Suhan simply grinned with total confidence, admitting he had an undeniable gut feeling that Alpaca would eventually blow up and become a massive star. Back on the balcony under the evening sky, Seojun swirls his drink and ponders the idea of hiring his own editor. While famous players strive for trending highlights and championship trophies, Seojun remembers how his own gaming journey began. He initially bought his virtual reality gaming capsule, with plans to try it briefly and sell it off. But streaming turned out to be far more entertaining than expected, letting him enjoy banter and make real connections with people. As a gentle breeze sweeps across the terrace, Seojun stares down at his drink and wonders if he was secretly searching for company all along. Watching the night drift by, he quietly realizes that maybe he truly was. Staring into the night, Seojun reflects on his ancient past life, comparing those distant memories to a hometown one can never return to. Realizing that brooding on the balcony will not help, our Swordmaster protagonist decides to hit the local gym to blow off steam and clear his head. Arriving at the athletic facility, Seojun laces up his boxing gloves and steps straight into the ring. He effortlessly dodges incoming strikes and delivers quick counterpunches, taking a satisfying breather after running his sparring partner ragged. Observing the ring from the sidelines, the gym manager chuckles to himself as Seojun blows off stress. What puzzles the instructor most is how every single member who gets beaten by Seojun somehow returns from the beatdown as a noticeably improved fighter. Meanwhile, 18-year-old pro gamer Lee Dong-soo approaches the manager to complain about endless treadmill drills. Though Dong-soo boasts about his status as a top virtual reality athlete, the manager head-pats the brat and reminds him that real life requires real physical endurance. Fearing he will remain trapped on a hamster wheel until next season's tournament, Dong-soo throws a hilariously dramatic temper tantrum right on the gym floor. Worn down by the kids screaming, the manager finally caves and permits him a single sparring match. Ecstatic, Dong-soo asks if he can pick his own sparring partner and leaps into the air with triumphant joy. The manager nonchalantly lets him choose, fully aware that the overconfident teenager cannot beat anyone in the building anyway. Scanning the facility for a victim, Dong-Su's gaze locks onto the boxing ring. He watches a floor-flattened veteran fighter groan beside Seo-jun, suddenly realizing that the casual guy in the blue headgear is the very same player featured in yesterday's trending gameplay video. Dong-Su recalls his gamer friends gushing endlessly over the clip while he scoffed, refusing to believe the hype. Watching Seo-jun chat with the manager, the skeptical rookie wonders how an absolute nobody managed to get access to this high-end training facility. Watching from across the gym floor, Dong-Su zeroes in on Seo-jun, carefully sizing up his modest build and apparent lack of muscle. Assuming our Swordmaster protagonist is just an ordinary guy who happens to be friendly with the manager, the arrogant rookie marks him down as an effortless target. Before Dong-Su can make his move, the gym manager grabs his shoulder and delivers a stern lecture on proper ring etiquette. He strictly reminds the teenager that sparring is about refining techniques rather than knocking opponents down, but the restless pro gamer completely tunes out the speech while eyeing Seo-jun. Convinced that the calm guy drying off with a towel will be an easy win, Dong-Su ignores the instructor's repeated warnings to stay polite. The overconfident rookie casually nods along while brushing off the advice, completely oblivious to the fact that he is eagerly begging for a total beatdown. Dong-Su points directly at Seo-jun and asks to spar with him, throwing the poor manager into an instant panic. Terrified for the kid's physical safety after watching Seo-jun flatten veteran fighters, the instructor frantically begs the overambitious teenager to reconsider and pick literally anyone else in the building. When Dong-Su innocently asks if challenging a stranger is rude, the manager enthusiastically agrees and tries to drag him away. But before he can save the brat from his own hubris, Seo-jun strolls over and cheerfully accepts the sparring request with a calm, welcoming smile. Thrilled by the easy acceptance, Dong-Su immediately launches into energetic chatter, gushing about yesterday's viral stream and asking if he can call him Big Bro. The teenager's overly friendly enthusiasm reminds Seo-jun of Taiwu, prompting our Swordmaster protagonist to good-naturedly agree as they head for the ring. Both fighters lace up their gloves, strap on their headgear, and step into the squared circle. Flashing a smug grin beneath his red helmet, Dong-Su condescendingly admits that Seo-jun played decently yesterday, though he quickly adds that the newcomer is nowhere near his own elite level. When Seo-jun innocently asks who he even is, Dong-Su nearly suffers a total meltdown, hysterically declaring himself the one and only gaming god. Seo-jun just scratches his headgear in utter confusion, leaving the egotistical teenager fuming over why anyone would ever hype up such an uncultured nobody. Dong-Su arrogantly promises to educate him after winning, claiming this match is a massive honor for a novice. Completely unbothered by the kid's dramatic grandstanding, Seo-jun adjusts his gloves and agrees to start, while Dong-Su bounces on his feet, naively planning to take it easy on the beginner. Before the self-proclaimed gaming god can even throw a casual warm-up jab, Seo-jun locks his sharp eyes onto his target and instantly shifts into battle mode. Dong-Su's arrogant smile vanishes in a split second as a heavy blue glove comes hurtling straight toward his red headgear, leaving the overconfident rookie completely frozen in shock as his easy sparring session turns into an immediate, ruthless reality check. Strolling through the sunny city streets, Seo-jun sips on banana milk alongside his father, Jin Ha-jun, who happens to be a hardcore PC gamer. Ha-jun gently lectures his son for showing zero mercy to his sparring opponent earlier, but our nonchalant former swordmaster simply shrugs it off like it was nothing. As Ha-jun recalls the tragic victim lying flat on the ring floor, his paternal worry kicks in over Seo-jun's new streaming career. Reminiscing about how the whole family previously panicked over the thought of getting 0 viewers, Ha-jun softly warns him just how ruthless the streaming world can be. With his gaming pride suddenly ignited, Ha-jun passionately recommends that Seo-jun play retro classics like Stellar Craft to build a real audience, leaving Seo-jun thoroughly confused. But when Dad inquisitively asks what his current viewer count even looks like, Seo-jun nonchalantly drops the bomb that his last broadcast hit over 400 live viewers and 3,000 followers. Upon hearing that absurd number, Ha-jun suffers an absolute system overload and does a majestic spit take with his banana milk. Later that evening, Seo-jun kicks back on his bed to browse the gaming forums, finding the entire community in an uproar over his recent collaboration video. Seeing everyone marvel at his incredible swordsmanship confirms that his name is finally making waves. Just as he relaxes, a text notification dings with a link to a wild post claiming Seo-jun must be a developer or a hacker. Seeing the thread get ratioed into oblivion with over 1,000 downvotes, Seo-jun can only stare at his screen with pure amusement. Seeing his friend laugh off the rising hate posts online, Seo-jun casually reports the bogus hacker allegations himself. Resting on his bed, our unbothered former swordmaster realizes he might actually have to host an explanation stream just 3 days after starting. Shrugging off the internet drama, Seojun climbs back into his high-tech VR pod for another session. Eager to see how many fans tune in today, he logs into the game as his live viewer count begins to skyrocket. Meanwhile, over at game headquarters, absolute chaos erupts as the executive chief slams his desk in shock. He shouts in disbelief that the weakness detection skill was meticulously designed to take ordinary players over a month of grinding to unlock. As the furious boss rants about ruined progression systems, his relaxed junior developer tells him not to be so mad. Handing over a tablet, the dev urges his superior to actually review the footage before making any wild assumptions. Opening his laptop, the developer plays the viral combat footage for his bewildered boss. Stunned eyes lock onto the screen as Seojun executes a series of blinding sword strikes, effortlessly dismantling the boss's attack pattern in real time. Watching the flawless victory unfold, the chief developer breaks into a cold sweat of pure astonishment. Confirming there are zero system bugs or cheats involved, he realizes this player read a complex, month-long boss design purely through raw skill. Suddenly flipping his fanboy switch, the junior dev excitedly defends his new idol, insisting Seojun is a genius who did nothing wrong. The overwhelmed chief finally clutches his head, begging his subordinate to shut up and focus on their impending crisis. When the clueless junior dev innocently asks what the issue is, the chief developer completely blows a fuse. He angrily warns that their entire game balance will collapse into chaos if hidden item fragments start dropping way ahead of schedule. Clutching his forehead in utter distress, the overwhelmed chief developer explains that collecting the rare fragments of order was meant to be a secret Easter egg. It was meticulously designed to unlock an exclusive chain quest and trigger the official teaser trailer for their next major title. But thanks to our sword-wielding menace, that entire multi-month marketing schedule is officially toast. His elaborate promotional strategy was supposed to naturally build player excitement over an extended period, seamlessly blending lore drops with organic hype. Standing behind what he believed was a bulletproof master plan, the chief developer took immense pride in his design, completely unaware that a former swordmaster was about to wreck the timeline. Yet with a single flawless display of combat mastery, one absurdly talented player shattered the studio's entire release schedule in a matter of hours. With his perfect calculations turned to ash and his professional pride thoroughly demolished, the utterly broken chief developer collapses onto his sofa in pure despair. Desperate to prevent total chaos, the chief asks how fast they can crunch out the promotional trailer, learning that, even with maximum overtime, it will take at least a week. Clenching his trembling hands in agonizing suspense, he grimly asks what the chances are that this terrifying streamer collects every remaining fragment before their new deadline. With sparkles practically bursting from his eyes and zero regard for his boss's fragile mental state, the hyper-fanboy junior developer proudly guarantees 100% certainty that Seojun will speedrun the entire quest. With veins threatening to explode on his forehead, the chief developer completely loses his last thread of sanity and screams at his cheerful subordinate to get lost, sending a soul-crushing roar, echoing straight out of the corporate skyscraper. Over at game development headquarters, the lead dev is having a full-blown existential crisis right in his office chair. Sweating bullets as he sighs in frustration, he keeps replaying Jin Seojun's viral combat video, utterly baffled by how a supposedly low-level player could pull off high-tier sword techniques with such effortless precision. Pausing the video frame by frame, he watches the view count rocket past 123,000 hits. Every frame of slow-motion playback confirms his worst suspicion. This guy isn't exploiting a glitch, he's casually breaking complex game mechanics that took an entire dev team years to code and balance. Pulling up Jin Seojun's profile and analyzing his combat logs, the developer stares in awe at the dark, lethal efficiency of every strike. The cold, unyielding aura of a seasoned swordmaster emanates from the recording, leaving the lead designer completely spellbound by the sheer elegance of his martial art. Looking at that ridiculously cool combat clip, our lead dev completely drops his serious corporate persona and turns into an unabashed fanboy. Covering his mouth to hide a proud smirk, he admits that Jin Seojun's strategy of intimidating low-level goons to force out Boss Drake was a stroke of absolute tactical genius. Before he even notices the time slipping away, the nightstand clock flashes 3:21 in the morning. Stretching his aching back, he leans back with a deep sense of pride, realizing there's nothing more rewarding than watching a player take a game world he poured his soul into and play it with brilliant originality. He fondly recalls the brutal crunch nights during early development, when sleep-deprived coders chugged coffee while praying the servers wouldn't crash under pressure. Grinning fondly at the memory, he glides his mouse over to Jin Seojun's live channel page and eagerly smashes that follow button. Meanwhile, back in his room, Seojun kicks off his latest live stream and gives a calm, friendly wave to the camera. The chat room immediately explodes with excitement as thousands of new followers flock in to witness the legendary Swordmaster live in action. With the chat scrolling at warp speed due to his rapidly growing viewer count, Seojun remains totally unbothered by the chaos. Knowing full well that high viewer counts demand top-tier entertainment, our hero gears up his masked avatar, fully prepared to put on another unforgettable show. To keep his rapidly exploding chat room under control, Seojun introduces his brand new moderation team to the stream. He handpicked them directly from his day one regulars who happen to carry the most absurd usernames imaginable. The chat room instantly welcomes these veteran fans who have loyally followed his virtual journey from the very beginning. While 3 of his chosen moderators eagerly jump at the opportunity to manage the channel, one legendary viewer named Brick Extortionist remains completely absent from the inbox. Seojun notes the lack of response with a wry smile before moving on to officially lay out his channel rules. After laying down simple guidelines to maintain basic decorum during broadcasts, our unbothered Swordmaster finally addresses the burning conspiracy surrounding his gameplay. Viewers are practically begging to know how a supposedly low-level beginner managed to pinpoint the structural weaknesses of high-tier heavyweights with such terrifying precision. With an utterly deadpan expression that shows absolute lack of remorse, Seojun offers a half-hearted apology before casually breaking down his technique. He explains that he simply identified worn-down sections on the opponent's gear and mentally drew optimal cutting paths to slice through them like butter. Predicting that suspicious viewers would accuse him of cheating anyway, Seojun pulled an absolute pro-gamer move and submitted an official support ticket, reporting himself for accidentally hacking. The chat completely loses its mind, realizing he brilliantly forced the game developers to audit his account and prove his innocence for him. With his reputation thoroughly cleared and his chat room in complete stitches, Seojun prepares to jump right back into virtual reality. However, he is immediately caught off guard when a high-stakes stream mission flashes across his interface, backed by an eye-watering 1,000,000 won bounty from a generous anonymous donor. The lucrative quest tasks our gamer with discovering the hidden weakness of the mighty Magic Tower Master. The chat instantly erupts into passionate debate over whether intangible magical spells even possess a physical grain that a skilled swordmaster could read and slice through with his blade. Staring at the massive payout for his very first official stream mission, our sharp-minded protagonist strokes his chin in deep contemplation. He realizes that discovering a flaw on a high-tier boss without physical armor is going to require an entirely new level of martial expertise and keen observation. As the loading screen finishes up and his avatar prepares to enter the battleground, Seojun fixes the camera with an intensely serious glare. Considering the oddly specific nature of the prompt, he strongly suspects that this lucrative mission was submitted by a real game developer watching his stream. While the lively stream chat laughs off the absurd idea of a real game developer dropping a massive 1,000,000 won bounty on a rookie stream, our stealthy protagonist teleports straight into the grand Magic Tower city. Towering Gothic spires reach into the sky as glowing magic circles shimmer overhead, establishing the magical epicenter of the entire realm. Governing this grand mystical hub from his central throne is Tower Master Duke. Behind his refined demeanor lies a cold-blooded villain infamous for conducting horrific human experiments without a single shred of hesitation, leaving a trail of suffering victims buried deep within the dark lore of the game. Dressed in sleek obsidian black assassin gear, Jin Seojun leaps from the rooftops and lands gracefully on the cobbled city streets like a lethal shadow. However, his sudden airborne arrival utterly terrifies a nearby civilian NPC, who lets out a blood-curdling shriek at the sight of a masked killer crashing down right beside her. As the trembling citizen desperately clutches her chest and gasps in relief that her virtual life was spared, our completely nonchalant streamer turns to his camera and casually announces his plan to go assassinate people, sending his rapidly growing chat room into absolute fits of hysterical laughter. Refusing to play the game like a standard boring walkthrough channel, Seojun admits he purposely did the bare minimum of background research on the Magic Tower. He wants the broadcast to remain completely unpredictable, opting for raw gamer intuition over rehearsed strategies to keep his loyal audience fully entertained. With his dark cloak billowing behind him, our fearless protagonist strolls straight through the massive, ornate front doors of the Magic Tower. He steps into a magnificent, sunlit marble hall framed by arched stained glass windows, casually admiring the grand architectural layout of the lower floors. Realizing he has zero directions on how to navigate the massive complex, Seojun decides to stalk two cloaked mages climbing an ornate spiral staircase. Looking down at the gathering hall below, he remarks to his chat that for a prestigious magical headquarters, actual mages seem surprisingly rare around here. Upon reaching a set of heavily guarded double doors flanked by armored sentries, Seojun uses a hilarious tactic to verify his path. He reasons that since his chat isn't currently spamming laughing emojis at a foolish mistake, this quiet hallway must indeed lead directly to the dangerous fourth floor. Before he can push through, an armored tower guard steps into his path, sternly declaring the area strictly off-limits to visitors. Tightening his grip on his steel spear, the guard prepares to intimidate the mysterious intruder, blissfully unaware of the absolute monster standing behind that dark assassin shroud. Before the overconfident tower guard can even finish issuing his stern security warning, our impatient protagonist delivers a lightning-fast slash that cuts straight through his guard. The unfortunate sentry collapses instantly in sheer agony, learning the hard way that attempting to intimidate a legendary reincarnated sword god is exceptionally terrible for one's long-term virtual health. Barging straight through the heavy double doors into the inner sanctum, Seojun unexpectedly steps directly onto a hidden security spell trap. Glowing crimson runes suddenly burst into existence across his limbs, freezing his physical movements entirely as powerful binding magic locks down our masked assassin right in his tracks before he can even draw his blade. As sinister cackling echoes throughout the dark chamber, Seojun calmly shifts his gaze upward to find a wild-eyed, cloaked sorcerer stepping out from the shadows, grinning with absolute villainous delight at his immobilized victim. The wicked spellcaster ignites crackling blue flames upon his palms, boasting that the arrogant intruder's foolish break-in ends right here. Slamming his glowing hands downward, the sorcerer unleashes a raging wave of blue fire roaring straight toward the helpless streamer. Yet faced with an incoming elemental inferno, our completely unbothered protagonist maintains absolute composure, staring intently at the magical attack to read its hidden physical grain and complete his highly lucrative stream mission in grand style. The moment the glowing magic circle activates beneath his boots, our resident swordmaster doesn't even bother flinching at the danger. As blinding blue flames erupt into a deadly inferno, he casually sways sideways with absurdly fast reflexes, easily dodging a high-speed magical blast that would have turned any ordinary player into extra crispy toast. Landing lightly on the marble floor without breaking a sweat, he carefully tracks the spell's momentum as it sizzles past his face. Realizing that the enemy's surprise ambush failed to restrict his movement, his focused eyes lock onto his target as he immediately prepares to turn the tables on his overconfident attacker. He glides backward with effortless elegance, causing his live-stream chat to completely lose their minds over his superhuman reaction time. While bloodthirsty viewers playfully complain in the chat about missing out on his first death of the season, our hero lets out a quiet sigh of relief, knowing that his body's heavy system debuffs have finally completely worn off. The villainous mage smirks with unearned arrogance, mocking him and claiming that dodging a single attack was nothing more than pure luck. Unwilling to accept defeat, the desperate spellcaster surges forward and unleashes an even grander cascade of mystical energy across the chamber, shouting at the top of his lungs to obliterate his evasive opponent. Completely unbothered by the grand spellcasting display, our hero stands tall in the center of the dark hall. Activating his weakness detection skill, a glowing targeting reticle ignites in his eye, calculating the exact trajectory of dozens of dark energy spears raining down on him from every conceivable angle overhead. With cool composure, he takes a slow, steadying breath and raises his trusty longsword against the incoming assault. As the dark projectiles swoop down at terrifying speeds, he swings with surgical precision, cleanly slicing through the magical constructs and neutralizing them long before they can even graze his cloak. Dancing effortlessly through the storm of magical fire, he parries incoming spells like minor annoyances while rapidly closing the distance with incredible speed. His cold, unshakable gaze strikes immediate terror into the mage's heart, turning the villain's smug confidence into an utterly comical expression of pure, unadulterated panic. Crossing the remaining space in a single heartbeat, our master swordsman delivers a devastating fatal slash straight through his opponent. The defeated spellcaster screams out in agony as he collapses backward onto the floor, proving once and for all that bringing magic into a sword god's personal domain is a thoroughly disastrous life decision. Standing victorious over his defeated opponent, our resident Grandmaster Swordsman pauses to ponder why his body abruptly locked up mid-fight. Noticing his chat trying to dodge his questions, he quickly senses that his viewers are hiding something important about this dungeon. When he casually threatens to shut down the stream out of sheer boredom, his panicked viewers immediately beg him to stay. Chat frantically confesses that the magic tower inflicts a treacherous, unique debuff on every single floor he dares to climb. Stepping onto the 5th floor, he is instantly ambushed by an aggressive tower guard bellowing at him to state his business. Unfazed by the hostile reception, our hero prepares to draw his blade and clear the room. However, as he attempts to initiate his opening strike, his hand twitches awkwardly, and his sword fails to follow his command. His internal motor controls completely misfire, leaving him momentarily bewildered by his own body's bizarre disobedience. Viewers reveal that the 5th floor swaps left and right, completely scrambling sensory perception, but inverted controls are a mere minor annoyance for a former sword god, who firmly tightens his grip to master the inverted inputs. Instantly recalibrating his muscle memory on the fly, he unleashes a devastatingly precise counter-slash. The attacking guard is sliced down before his own weapon can even complete its trajectory, ending the fight in a brilliant crimson flash. The live chat completely loses its mind over his terrifying adaptability, marveling at how effortlessly he turned a severe handicap into an absolute joke. Completely unbothered by their praise, our hero casually strolls past the corpse and asks what headache awaits him on the 6th floor. Advancing onto the 6th level, the stone floor quakes under immense environmental pressure as heavy rock debris crumbles around his boots. The floor's oppressive aura takes hold immediately, signaling the arrival of a brand new penalty. A warning mark flashes near his eye as the mysterious debuff takes full effect. Feeling a sudden, heavy drag on his limbs, our swordsman realizes that his movement speed has just taken a massive nosedive. The curse drastically slashes his mobility, forcing our usually hyperactive protagonist into excruciating slow motion. As he trudges forward like a lagging video player, his impatient stream chat suffers a hilarious collective meltdown over a walking pace so agonizingly slow it hurts to watch. After finally enduring the sluggish trek, he learns that the upcoming 7th floor will steal his vision with pitch-black darkness. Undeterred by the threat of total blindness, our hero marches into the shadow with cold focus, knowing the magic tower master is waiting right ahead. Stepping across the threshold onto the 7th floor, total darkness instantly engulfs our resident Grandmaster swordsman. Unbothered by his sudden loss of sight, he stands tall in the pitch-black chamber, completely unfazed by the magic tower's latest treacherous trick. Relying on his sharp intellect and combat experience, he begins mapping out the surrounding room inside his mind. Knowing the layout should mirror the floor below, our hero mentally reconstructs every wall, pillar, and staircase with mathematical precision. Closing his eyes to sharpen his remaining senses, he suddenly feels an intense wave of heat radiating from high above. A hidden enemy mage ignites a fiery spell and unleashes a scorching beam of fire straight down the grand spiral staircase. As the blazing inferno roars past his face, our calm protagonist barely even flinches. He coolly tracks the fiery projectile's trajectory, letting the heat graze his cloak while effortlessly dodging the surprise ambush without taking a single scratch of damage. Admiring his opponent's grand, theatrical spellcasting, our master swordsman readies his stance and tightens his grip on his blade. As the surrounding structure crumbles under magical pressure, he prepares to unleash a ruthless counterattack. With a lightning-fast swing of his longsword, he unleashes a massive glowing arc of crimson aura that cleaves right through the darkness. The devastating counter-slash shatters stone and cuts straight across the upper landing of the Grand Hall. As heavy stone debris crashes down around him, a glowing targeting reticle locks onto the exact location of his unseen enemy. Despite the total blackness blinding his eyes, his heightened instincts reveal every incoming threat with absolute clarity. Suddenly, dozens of razor-sharp ice spears rain down from the ceiling in a lethal, freezing flurry. Unwilling to be pinned down, our agile hero leaps gracefully through the air, easily ducking beneath the sharp projectiles with supernatural speed. Sprinting sideways along the stone floor, he glides past the incoming magical barrage like an unstoppable phantom in the night. The frantic spellcaster unleashes stream after stream of elemental magic, yet none of her attacks can touch his shadow. The red-hooded female mage gasps in utter horror as she watches her elusive target evade every single attack. Focusing his sharp hearing on her frantic breathing and heavy footsteps, our hero zeroes in on her exact position atop the stairs. Quietly whispering that he has finally found her, our sword god flashes a chilling smile through the dark. The panicked mage gasps in terror and frantically fires one last spell, realizing too late that blinding this monster only made him far more dangerous. Without needing his eyes to see, our resident sword god channels his aura directly into his blade. Swinging with blinding speed, he cuts through the darkness with an overwhelming strike that completely shatters his enemy's magical defense in a single violent flash. The hooded female mage staggers back in total shock as her darkness spell fails to hide her position. Realizing that her stealth tactics haven't slowed down this monster for even a fraction of a second, absolute panic sets in as she desperately tries to conjure another spell. Closing the distance like a grim reaper in the night, our cold-blooded protagonist flashes a terrifying smile through the shadows. Reminding his victim that he actually fights better when blinded, he delivers a swift, decisive slash that ends the battle on the spot. With the defeated mage left slumped over the spiral railing, our unstoppable hero casually dusts off his cloak. Turning back to his stream as if he just took a light afternoon stroll, he cheerfully announces that the 7th floor was an absolute breeze. A sudden flood of cash donations explodes across his screen as bewildered viewers spam the chat, demanding to know how he pulled off a blind clear. Smiling smugly at the camera, our arrogant Grandmaster politely thanks his supporters before asking if this level of play isn't just basic standard procedure for everyone. Reaching the 8th floor of the Magic Tower, our reincarnated Swordmaster finds himself standing before the towering double doors leading straight into the Master's private study, ready for his next major boss encounter. Just as he prepares to push those massive doors open, a viewer message flashes across his interface, offering a link to an online strategy guide specifically written for tackling this terrifying boss. According to the forum post, Phase 1 features standard magical attacks that are tricky but dodgeable, whereas Phase 2 introduces a near-impenetrable barrier that strictly requires high-damage explosive bombs just to leave a single scratch. To make matters worse, strict inventory weight limits prevent players from carrying enough explosives to break the barrier single-handedly, while the boss continuously unleashes infinite lightning strikes that swiftly vaporize anyone attempting meat shield tactics. The former sword god listens quietly before tapping open his inventory screen, which reveals nothing more than a starter sword, a machete, and a basic hood, causing his chat to instantly mock his total lack of preparation. When he thoughtfully mutters that this fight might actually be the first time he dies, excited viewers immediately begin placing bets against him, rapidly driving the total mission bounty pool up to over 1.2 million won. Unfazed by the influx of doubters praying for his downfall, our protagonist flashes a sly smile, accepts the bounty mission, and casually strides into the study to begin the boss raid. As Phase 2 kicks off with a blinding tempest of electric rage, our former sword god immediately starts weaving through the high-voltage chaos. Realizing these lightning strikes move far too fast to dodge purely on reaction, he relies on pure Swordmaster intuition to predict every single trajectory while Magic Tower Master Duke relentlessly casts one spell after another. By carefully reading Duke's subtle eye movements and unique hand gestures right before casting, our reincarnated legend easily calculates the built-in delay on every incoming spell. He effortlessly dances around every glowing red threat zone on the tactical grid map, sliding cleanly under fatal blasts while his stream chat gasps in total shock at his god-tier dodging skills. Despite his flawless footwork, our hero quickly realizes that Duke isn't just spamming spells at random. He's actively controlling the entire arena. The boss deploys a heavy frontal shield to block direct breakthrough attempts while using targeted lightning strikes to herd him right back into his starting position every time he tries to flank. Scanning the study for a way to break this endless loop, his sharp eyes spot a high-tech glass cylinder housing a mysterious floating magic core. Suspecting this glowing device might be the key to cracking Duke's invincible setup, he decides he needs to reach out and touch it. Drawing his basic machete from his inventory, our reincarnated master channels his aura straight into the plane blade and unleashes a massive crimson slash. The fiery red energy wave arcs directly toward the mysterious glass capsule to force a reaction and test the room's hidden defense mechanism. Tower Master Duke gasps in sudden alarm as the flying strike zips right past his face. However, his impenetrable blue energy barrier automatically snaps into place, completely absorbing the explosive slash without taking a single scratch or letting the attack reach the glass container. Realizing this audacious intruder is prioritizing the room's secret mechanism over a direct duel, the enraged Tower Master glares fiercely and shouts out in anger, demanding to know where he thinks he's going while taking up a strict defensive stance directly beside the container. With the protective barrier completely walling off the magic core, our protagonist acrobatically flips backward through the air to evade another deadly lightning surge. Meanwhile, his viewers spam the chat in full panic mode, insisting the shield is impossible to breach without explosives and begging him to give up and hit the retry button before he gets vaporized. Instead of giving up, our former sword god ponders why the bounty donor specifically forbade him from using his weakness detection skill for this raid. Realizing the donor was giving him a strategic hint rather than a handicap, he carefully inspects the lightning bolts converging and scattering like shattered glass, finally pinpointing the hidden weakness hidden inside Duke's seemingly infinite lightning storm. By carefully reading the erratic electrical currents, our former sword god pinpoints the exact focal point where all the small lightning branches overlap in mid-air. Without hesitation, he extends his blade straight into that central intersection, preparing to turn the boss's own high-voltage storm right back against him. A blinding burst of electric light illuminates the entire study as the massive voltage surges through his sword. Rather than getting instantly vaporized like his stream chat expected, our heroic streamer calmly absorbs the raw power, holding his glowing blade high in a display of sheer martial masterclass. Locking his glowing crimson eyes onto his target, our casual speedrunner brings his lightning-infused blade down with ruthless precision. The resulting energy wave tears across the room's tactical grid like a raging tsunami, flying straight toward Duke's defensive perimeter at breathtaking speed. The explosive strike hits Duke's seemingly impenetrable energy barrier head-on, completely shattering the glowing blue shield into flying shards. The arrogant Tower Master groans in utter shock as his absolute defense crumbles into dust, while viewers lose their minds over the fact that no high-damage bombs were required to pull off the break. Capitalizing on the opening before the stunned mage can rearm his defenses, our reincarnated sword god dashes forward in a crimson blur. He delivers a lightning-fast slash that cleaves right past Duke and destroys the glass container, instantly shattering the glowing magic core floating inside. Desperate to save face, Duke smugly insists that breaking the floating core only destroyed a simple mana refiner rather than his true power source. However, our cheeky protagonist just flashes a confident smirk, completely unbothered by the boss's frantic attempt to talk his way out of danger. Enraged by his opponent's calm attitude, the Tower Master channels another wild storm of high-voltage magic straight across the arena floor. Undeterred by the blinding light show, our hero acrobatically dodges every incoming bolt on the grid map, relentlessly closing the distance once again. Channeling heavy aura through his basic weapon, our reincarnated master confirms his initial theory that destroying the container permanently severed Duke's infinite mana supply. With the boss no longer able to instantly regenerate his invincible barrier, the raid has officially entered its brutal final stretch. Duke sneers down at what he perceives to be a mindless frontal rush, bragging aloud that such an obvious attack will never touch a grand mage. In a flash of blue light, the mage teleports across the study, leaving our hero's aggressive slice to cut through nothing more than empty afterimages. As the boastful Tower Master starts cackling out loud about his superior teleportation magic, his arrogant speech is abruptly cut short. Before he can even finish his sentence, a sharp sword drives straight through his chest from behind, leaving him gasping for air and staring down in absolute horror. With Tower Master Duke officially out of the picture, system alerts confirm the boss's demise while awarding our reincarnated master his third fragment of order. Flashing a casual smirk, our god-tier speedrunner happily cashes in his massive mission bounty, leaving his stunned chat to process the absolute masterclass they just witnessed. Watching the stream wrap up from behind his monitor, the mysterious donor chuckles in satisfaction. Seeing how effortlessly the raid was cleared, he resolves to collect all the remaining fragments of order during their next encounter. Meanwhile, a sharp-dressed executive places a call to team leader Kim, demanding they establish contact with our prodigy streamer right away. Inside a sunlit cathedral, high-ranking officers gather to analyze the sudden downfall of their rivals. It turns out someone unexpectedly pruned 3 out of 4 rotten branches for them, but the messy execution definitely doesn't match the Assassin's Guild's usual stealthy style. When asked if this chaotic wildcard can be recruited to their side, the male officer remains doubtful. Undeterred, the sharp purple-haired commander tips off her cap with a smirk, deciding she will personally head out to inspect this mysterious player herself. Back in the game world, our resident swordmaster finishes watching the story sequence and steps out into empty streets. He wonders why the city is entirely deserted, completely ignoring the fact that his recent destructive rampage scared everyone into hiding. Posing heroically in front of the crumble-prone magic tower now held together by massive cartoon bandages, our protagonist winks at the camera and triumphantly declares another successful assassination. Naturally, his chat erupts over how hilariously shameless his definition of stealth is. His modest victory flex is interrupted by a massive 100,000 donation from a user named Ark. Chat instantly goes wild, explaining that Ark is a legendary analyst from a competitive card game, leaving our clueless streamer genuinely surprised by his growing elite audience. While strolling down a side street reflecting on his unexpected viewers, a cloaked figure lurking in the shadows makes a move. Before he can react, a hand grabs his wrist and yanks him bodily into a dark alleyway. Pulled up close, his captor is revealed to be Christina herself. Whispering his in-game moniker Nameless, she offers him a warm, grateful smile while his live stream chat absolutely loses its mind over her sudden appearance. Christina offers her heartfelt thanks to Nameless for single-handedly taking down 3 of the city's 4 corrupt rulers. She hands over a heavy sack of reward gold which our modest swordmaster reluctantly pockets while quietly acknowledging that she is far more capable and resourceful than he initially expected. Emerging from the shadowy alley right behind her, a sharp-looking gentleman with a neat ponytail steps forward. He introduces himself as Arthur Haig, the official Grand Branch Manager of Altion's local Assassins Guild chapter. Arthur warmly extends a hand to express the guild's formal gratitude on behalf of all assassins. However, our streamer immediately senses something suspicious about the man's overly casual tone, a sentiment his eagle-eyed chat room echoes without missing a single beat. The manager goes on to praise Nameless for sweeping the dangerous city streets clean. This triggers a hilarious visual flashback to our swordmaster's brutal, absurdly destructive rampage that left the entire town hiding in terror and his chat dying of laughter. Without warning, Arthur's friendly grip tightens like a steel vise and his cheerful expression turns dead serious. He fixes our hero with a sharp, intimidating glare and demands that he immediately cease all further ruler assassinations. A system dialog window instantly pops up with 2 distinct response options, prompting the eager chat room to immediately start guessing which incredibly sassy and headstrong choice our stubborn streamer is about to pick. Feigning outrage at his chat room for reading his mind so effortlessly, our snarky protagonist immediately proves them completely right anyway by enthusiastically slamming option number 2 without a single moment of hesitation. Nameless delivers his defiant refusal straight to the branch manager's face, arrogantly pointing out that if it weren't for his own unmatched combat prowess, the guild wouldn't have been able to handle a single one of those corrupt tyrants. Conceding that undeniable truth with a calm nod, Arthur explains that eliminating the final ruler right now would plunge Altion into total lawless chaos. He politely asks our hero to pause his crusade until the guild can fully stabilize the city. Promising to get back in touch once the local political turmoil settles down, Arthur and Christina bid Nameless farewell and vanish back into the dim alleyways, leaving our hero pondering their mysterious departure. Standing alone on the quiet street, our sharp streamer openly agrees with his chat's rising suspicion, concluding that the smooth-talking branch manager is definitely hiding something shady beneath his polite facade. Declaring that he's wrapping up his gaming session for the day, Nameless sends his chat room into a full-blown panic over an early stream ending, only to quickly clarify that he's merely stepping out of VR to share a major announcement. Triumphantly flashing an official customer support email from Moviesoft, he reveals that a thorough security audit detected 0 unauthorized cheat programs, officially proving to the entire world that his godly sword skills are 100% legitimate. With his reputation completely vindicated, our ambitious streamer transitions smoothly into his next big announcement, pulling up a recruitment banner to reveal that he's officially searching for a talented video editor to trim down his chaotic streams. He invites any interested content creators in the chat to edit a sample clip of his wild gameplay and submit a private video link, wrapping up his stream on an absolute high note. Back in the real world, sitting at his high-tech multi-monitor workstation, our ambitious swordmaster officially wraps up his action-packed live stream after dropping his surprise editor recruitment announcement. Thrilled with his channel's sudden explosive growth, he prepares to step away from his rig and power down his virtual reality setup for the night. Flashing one final cheerful wave to his wildly enthusiastic chat room, Nameless bids his devoted viewers a heartwarming goodbye before officially logging off the server. The stream chat erupts with affectionate farewells and high praise, eagerly counting down the hours until their favorite chaotic swordmaster returns for his next unhinged virtual crusade. Later that evening inside his cozy apartment, Seojun happily unwinds after an exhausting gaming session over a box of golden crispy fried chicken and icy cold beer alongside his chatty roommate. Munching contentedly on a drumstick, his roomie reveals he was secretly watching the broadcast and brings up Seojun's public call for a video editor. His roommate eagerly pitches the idea of joining a top-tier multi-channel network, explaining how a corporate agency could handle all his video editing, brand deals, and channel promotion with complete professional care. Excited by the prospect, he even offers to personally organize a sit-down interview with his company boss the very next afternoon. However, Seo-jun calmly turns down the generous offer, explaining that his schedule for tomorrow is already completely booked. Glancing down at a fresh notification lighting up his smartphone screen, he nonchalantly reveals that Kim Yoon-chan, a high-ranking team leader directly from game publisher Moviesoft Korea, just reached out to request an urgent face-to-face meeting. Completely jaw-dropped that the gaming giant's official corporate development team is personally reaching out to a rookie content creator. His roommate chokes on his drink in absolute disbelief. But in the midst of his dramatic sputters, a wild flailing arm violently knocks over an open beer can, sending a tragic wave of alcohol washing over their prized chicken. The official digital letter displayed on Seo-jun's phone confirms a formal invitation from Moviesoft Korea's team leader to discuss his recent extraordinary feats within Dawn of the Assassins. With major industry executives taking keen notice of his unmatched sword skills, our humble streamer's rise to internet stardom is officially unstoppable. Our former sword god Jin Seo-jun receives an unexpected official email from Moviesoft Korea's team leader, requesting an urgent meeting regarding his recent in-game activity. Fearing it might be a voice phishing scam or trouble with the developers, he frantically remembers his suspicious self-report about accidental hacking. Crossing his arms and looking away, Seo-jun tries to play completely innocent. His roommate smirks at the clumsy defense, warning him that game companies don't send meeting invites just to hand out awards for honest play. Despite the teasing, Seo-jun holds out hope for a reward. While his friend sips soda and enjoys the spectacle, he reminds Seo-jun to be grateful if his account avoids getting outright banned. Staring at his phone in uneasy silence, Seo-jun begins to suspect he really is a marked target. The following day at a busy cafe, Seo-jun sits waiting for his scheduled meeting and tunes into live broadcasts on his phone. He finds a distressed streamer weeping on camera after enduring a grueling 22-hour live-streamed struggle against a formidable dragon boss. Feeling an unexpected flash of guilt for the player's ordeal, Seo-jun watches the streamer announce a quick bathroom break. To keep the channel active while away, the streamer runs a mid-broadcast advertisement, piquing Seo-jun's interest in how stream revenue works. An internal overview details how streaming affiliate ads operate as a key source of revenue for creators. Ads run before and during streams, generating income based on total viewers and turning massive audience numbers into substantial payouts. Reviewing his own channel stats, Seo-jun sees that he meets nearly all the criteria required for affiliate status. The primary obstacle holding him back is his live broadcast count, meaning he cannot yet cover extra expenses like hiring a video editor. With operational costs adding up, every single source of streaming income suddenly feels far more critical to his future. Moviesoft Korea's team leader Kim Yoon-chan introduces himself with unbridled excitement, ambushing our former sword god at the cafe table. Grabbing Seo-jun's hands in an uncomfortably intense handshake, manager Kim acts less like a corporate executive and more like a starstruck fan meeting his ultimate idol. Feeling completely overwhelmed by the team leader's suffocating enthusiasm, Seo-jun tries to play it cool and settle into the meeting. But as soon as manager Kim awkwardly clears his throat, he drops an outright bizarre request. The development team needs Seo-jun to slow down and hold off on clearing the game's final rulers. Manager Kim sheepishly explains that the teaser video meant to unlock after defeating all the rulers won't be finished for another 6 days. Seo-jun can hardly process the absurdity of a major gaming studio personally coming to beg a single player to go easy on their content just to prevent a massive early reveal leak. To prove the company's sincerity, manager Kim dramatically presents exclusive beta testing privileges for their upcoming title, alongside promises of custom DLC items dedicated to Seo-jun. Watching the team leader enthusiastically pile on endless freebies, Seo-jun stares in total deadpan disbelief, wondering if this corporate rep is just a total pushover. Clutching his head in confusion, Seo-jun double-checks if delaying his ruler clears is truly the sole condition for all these extravagant perks. When manager Kim confirms it with a naive smile, Seo-jun privately wonders if he's being lured into an elaborate scam, or if the man sitting across from him simply lacks basic negotiation tactics. Before the bizarre negotiation can dissolve into further confusion, sharp footsteps approach their table as a stern voice points out how suspicious manager Kim's offer sounds. The newcomer turns out to be none other than Eve Paimo, the president of Moviesoft Korea himself, stepping in to take personal control of the meeting. Shaking Seo-jun's hand, President Paimo dismisses the team leader's modest perks as completely insufficient for a creator of Seo-jun's caliber. Wanting to offer real compensation, the president casually pulls out a proposal for an official advertisement deal, guaranteeing a staggering minimum unit price of 10 million won per campaign. Seojun is left entirely floored by the astronomical figure, sweat dropping as he struggles to comprehend why the head of a multi-million-dollar company is bending over backward. He can't help but blurt out the obvious question: why throw a small fortune at a rookie streamer who doesn't even have an established channel yet? President Paimo clears up the confusion by admitting that this unbelievable offer is simply a strategic investment in Seojun's future. He reveals that both he and team leader Kim have been quietly studying Seojun's broadcasts, completely mesmerized by his unmatched skill and utterly convinced that our former sword god is destined to become the biggest star in virtual reality gaming. Recognizing that the studio is scrambling to lock in a strong relationship before his channel inevitably explodes, Seojun takes a steadying breath and agrees to their terms. Delighted by the quick agreement, President Paimo places the official contract on the table so manager Kim can explain the details, leaving our former sword master pleasantly surprised by his newfound bargaining power. Manager Kim practically swoons with gratitude, promising to serve Seojun's every need like a dedicated personal butler while making sure all promised perks are fulfilled. But before the conversation ends, President Paimo leans forward with intense focus, intertwining his fingers as he asks Seojun if he has ever played or even heard of Moviesoft's massive upcoming title, For the Fellowship. Meanwhile, in a cluttered room across town, a talented freelance video editor slams her desk in sheer frustration. After exhausting herself to meet an ungrateful streamer's demands and carefully studying Jin Seojun's gameplay style to perfect her edits, she receives a heartless text message firing her on the spot without paying a single dime of her earned profit split. Dropping to her knees in pure desperation, the enraged editor screams at the ceiling and vows to sue her toxic former employer for shameless labor exploitation. Refusing to let the unfair betrayal destroy her career, she furiously clicks through job recruitment portals, determined to land a new contract and prove her skills were never the problem. Her eyes suddenly widen in disbelief as she stumbles upon an open job posting directly seeking an editor for Jin Seojun's channel. Realizing this might be her ultimate chance at redemption, the ambitious editor grins with renewed motivation, while over on the other side of town, Seojun innocently checks his computer screen, hoping his new listing attracts a competent editor. Seojun kicks off his latest live stream disguised as a pixelated cat avatar, easily flexing his high-level gaming mechanics to snag first place in a casual platformer. However, sharp-eyed viewers instantly spot his true identity as Nameless, clogging the chat with questions about why a legendary player is wasting time on minigames. As disappointed fans flood the chat with complaints and endless boos, Seojun realizes his casual gaming detour isn't keeping anyone entertained. He ponders what else he can possibly play after running through every available title, just as an urgent notification ping cuts through the audience's angry demands to overthrow the rulers. Turning the hype up to maximum, Seojun officially promises his cheering audience that he'll launch his grand raid against the rulers tomorrow. With an official confirmation from Moviesoft that his teaser video is finished and ready to drop, the stage is set for an epic showdown to finish the job. Stepping away from the virtual world, Seojun sits in his living room staring grimly at his laptop as application emails trickle in. Finding the applicant count painfully low for his video editor position, he draws the attention of his roommate, who wanders over with an ice pop to ask why he looks so intense. Although Seojun mentions he already arranged a meeting with an editor candidate named Han Jimin, the real problem is his outrageous job description. He isn't just looking for a simple editor. He wants a multi-talented powerhouse who can edit, design, and manage his channel like Soo Han, prompting his friend to point out that one person can't handle all that work. When his roommate casually pokes him with a popsicle stick and suggests scouting dedicated fans who already edit and post highlight videos of his streams, Seojun gets hit with a flash of inspiration. He immediately smothers his friend in sarcastic praise, earning a blunt threat before the exhausted advisor retreats to take a nap. Taking his friend's advice to heart, Seojun quickly types Nameless into the search bar, expecting a treasure trove of high-octane gameplay edits. Instead, he's immediately greeted by random karaoke performances and makeup tutorials, forcing him to slump back in disappointment and rethink his entire search strategy. Scanning through the fan edits, Seojun drops his jaw when he stumbles across a video posted under the absurd handle Public Restroom Brick Extortion King. Even stranger than the username is the applicant's silence, as Seojun wonders why someone would put in the effort to edit a video for him without ever sending an application email or responding to his direct messages. Driven by sheer curiosity to see what this silent candidate brought to the table, Seojun moves his cursor over the thumbnail and clicks right onto the video. Meanwhile, far from the bright lights of streaming, editor-candidate Lee Ji-young sits alone in a pitch-black room illuminated only by his glowing dual monitors. Looking down at his phone, he sees gentle texts from his mother asking to have dinner together on a nice day. But the loving check-in only brings a silent pang of guilt before he rises from his chair. Walking toward the window, Ji-young hesitantly grasps the heavy blackout curtains and pulls them open, wincing as harsh daylight floods his eyes. Gazing out over the city below, he reflects mournfully on how 2 full years have already passed since a tragic turning point shattered his life and isolated him from society. Dark memories flood his mind as he recalls his agonizing art school days, where ruthless bullies trashed his paint canvases and mocked his artistic dreams. Grinning viciously, the tormentors threatened to break his fingers so he would never draw another line, leaving him permanently scarred by trauma and fear. Shaken by the lingering terror of that memory, Ji-young violently pulls the curtains tight, hiding once more within the suffocating darkness of his sanctuary. Clinging to the fabric as he catches his breath, our troubled artist despairs over how his lingering dread continues to paralyze him every single day. Glancing back at his workspace, Ji-young gazes at the Seo-jun video edit he crafted, remembering how intense anxiety prevented him from sending an email or even setting the video to public view. Convincing himself that a broken talent like him could never succeed, he surrenders to bitter self-doubt. Just as he succumbs to despair, a sudden electronic chime rings out from his computer screen. Ji-young startles in surprise, eyes widening behind his glasses as he lunges forward to grab his mouse, eager to discover what unexpected event just broke his isolation. Seo-jun kicks off his latest virtual live stream, greeting his digital chat room with a relaxed wave of his hand. Surprised to see over 2,000 dedicated fans hanging around despite his recent minigame shenanigans, our legendary streamer realizes that his loyal audience is eagerly waiting to see what high-level raid content he delivers next. Before jumping headfirst into his grand raid against the formidable rulers, our gaming prodigy abruptly halts the broadcast to deliver an urgent public announcement. Looking straight into the camera with a confident smile, Seo-jun directly calls out Public Restroom Brick Extortion King by name, asking if the mysterious clip creator is currently watching the live stream right at this very moment. Back in his pitch-black sanctuary, Ji-young nearly jumps out of his chair in sheer disbelief as Seo-jun broadcasts his private editor application video for all 2,000 viewers to see. Our favorite streamer chuckles at the applicant's absurd handle while reading his humble intro text aloud, revealing to the audience that he even left a personal comment under the video asking him to reach out. Ji-young suffers an immediate meltdown of secondhand embarrassment, grabbing his dual monitor screens in absolute panic as he realizes he accidentally published his secret portfolio video to public view. Utterly stunned that his idol managed to uncover an obscure video with barely 20 total views, our panicked shut-in editor hyperventilates over his foolish mistake being broadcast live to thousands. Leaning closer to his glowing screen, Ji-young stares in awe at Seo-jun's personal comment praising his natural editing talent and asking to hire him on the spot. He grips his mouse until his hand shakes with emotion, struggling to reconcile his own deep-seated feelings of artistic inadequacy with such overwhelmingly positive feedback coming directly from his favorite streamer. Tears of intense emotion well up behind his glasses as a fragile spark of hope ignites within Ji-young's weary heart. For the first time in 2 agonizing years of darkness, our traumatized artist dares to believe that this unexpected lifeline from Seo-jun might finally grant him the strength and courage needed to escape his suffocating pit of isolation. Meanwhile, back on stream, the chat erupts with non-stop laughter as viewers mercilessly tease the applicant's painfully relatable admission that his main qualification is having infinite free time because he's unemployed. Blushing at his audience's ruthless banter, an embarrassed Seo-jun clears his throat and delivers one last sincere plea for the mysterious editing wizard to contact him immediately. With his editor recruitment message officially broadcast to the entire world, our legendary streamer flashes a confident grin and shifts gears straight back into hardcore battle mode. Turning up the hype for his roaring audience, Seo-jun rallies his chat to grab their gear and prepare for pure action as he dives in to take down the queen once and for all. Our dark-cloaked swordmaster follows a glowing red marker down a cobblestone alleyway. Spotting the target building, he reaches out and quietly pushes open a heavy wooden door. He steps into a bustling, dimly lit tavern packed with noisy patrons enjoying their evening. Blending smoothly into the shadows, our hero glides past the main counter and sneaks through a private back doorway unnoticed. When his live-stream chat pops up asking where he is headed, our stealthy protagonist offers a mischievous smirk. He immediately dashes through the kitchen corridor at high speed, leaving a bright red streak in his wake. Slipping around the doorframe with practiced agility, he reaches a quiet storage room. Walking steadily past stacks of wooden crates and wine barrels, he proceeds deeper into the guild's hidden compound. Stepping up onto the raised floor, he pauses at the threshold of the secret inner hall. He explains to his chat that gaining entry here requires building up high reputation with the local Assassins Guild. As viewers express surprise over the hidden location, our hero casually strolls down a wide spiral staircase. He makes his way into the lower chamber, ready to speak with the guild representative. Waiting below is a blonde guild representative standing with arms crossed. Looking up as he approaches, she addresses him as Nameless and asks what brings him to her quarters. A system dialog box immediately appears on screen, giving him two distinct options. He can either request a standard new mission or select the direct option to take care of the rulers. His live chat instantly explodes with frantic warnings, pleading with him not to pick the standard mission since it deprives players of the fragment of order. They recall tragic tales of past players who made that mistake. Ignoring the chat's sarcastic comments about delaying progress, our hero confidently taps the second option. Looking the guild master straight in the eye, he announces that he wants to take care of the rulers now. The guild master glares in silent disbelief before letting out a flat apology. Surprised by her cold response, our hero can only stare back in mild awkwardness as she prepares to explain. She bluntly shuts him down, explaining that it is far too early and that he simply isn't prepared yet. Chad immediately bursts out laughing, mocking how the game will probably never deem him ready. Turning away, she walks back up the stairs while telling him to return only when he is ready for a normal contract. As viewers ask if the game is stalling again, our protagonist just flashes a confident grin. Summoning his sword into his hand, he reminds his stream that he has never been one to follow NPC instructions anyway. With a determined smile, he decides to go hunt down the rulers on his own terms. Refusing to sit around waiting for guild approval, our impatient swordmaster takes matters into his own hands and leaps off the rooftop into the dark night sky. Flashing across the city like a streak of red lightning, he bounds from roof to roof at breakneck speed, leaving all NPC rules behind as he closes in on his destination. Coming to a stop high above the city, he surveys the massive estate of Alberg Palace. This grand fortress serves as the domain of the final ruler, the Queen, boasting the largest garden in the land and defended by over 300 elite mercenaries known as the Royal Guard. Landing smoothly outside the main entrance, our shadow-stepping hero pauses to take in the absurdly extravagant palace doors. Before he can map out his break-in, a viewer sends in a 10,001 donation asking if our stream star takes custom missions on demand. The chat explodes when another viewer drops 300,001 to request the Queen's immediate assassination. Panicked fans warn that killing her directly will forfeit the rare fragment of order, but our grinning swordmaster accepts anyway, promising to just cause total mayhem if things go wrong. Down in the palace gardens, a patrolling guard hears a sudden rustle in the bushes and turns around on high alert. Preparing for a fight, his tension instantly dissolves into pure joy when a gentle meow reveals that the mysterious intruder is just an innocent stray cat. While the royal guard remains completely entranced by his newly adopted furry friend, our dark-cloaked intruder vaults over the high perimeter wall without making a single sound. Stepping smoothly onto the palace grounds, he smugly reports to his livestream chat that Phase 1 of this dangerous heist is officially a total success. Activating his heightened perception skill, Nameless projects a brilliant holographic wireframe map of the palace interior directly into his vision. The intricate layout lights up like a blueprint, giving him a complete architectural breakdown of the entire target building from top to bottom. He sheepishly admits his viewers were right to hassle him into buying that blueprint earlier, though he still insists he was right to skip the overpriced X-ray goggles. After all, a true swordmaster has no need for cheat codes when stealth infiltration is this remarkably simple. Naturally, the gaming universe immediately decides to test that absurd burst of confidence. The distinct sound of heavy leather boots marching across the cobblestones forces our cocky hero to instantly cut his banter short and duck behind a thick tree trunk for cover. Peeking up from the dark foliage, he surveys the upper architecture and spots a heavily armored archer keeping watch over the second-floor balcony. With the perimeter locked down this tight, casually strolling through the grand front doors is definitely off the table. Refusing to start a noisy brawl with the royal sentries, our resourceful protagonist scoops up a small pebble from the dirt path. Flipping the tiny rock casually between his fingers, he carefully lines up a mind-boggling trick shot aimed straight at the balcony door handle. Flicked with bullet-like velocity, the stone strikes the keyhole dead on, popping the lock mechanism wide open with a sharp click. As his live chat spams question marks in absolute shock, Nameless launches himself straight up into the dark night air toward the unlatched doorway. Landing in a flawless superhero squat right on the balcony, our smug protagonist rises and casually dusts off his dark cloak. He turns back to his stream camera with a confident smirk, boasting to his viewers that breaching the most guarded palace in the realm is shockingly easy. Slipping past the heavy velvet curtains, he steps inside a gorgeous, completely vacant royal bedroom. But before he can even celebrate his easy entrance, footsteps echo loudly right outside the door, triggering maximum alert mode and leaving our brave swordmaster frantically searching for a place to hide. The lock's sudden destruction sends the palace AI straight into alert mode, highlighting guard search paths on our hero's vision map. As sentries start pacing around to locate the noise, Nameless stays glued to cover. While a particularly vocal guard shouts out in search of the intruder, our dark-cloaked master cringes in annoyance. With viewers in chat betting on his failure, the alert status spreads across the floor. Realizing stealth has broken down, our protagonist takes matters into his own hands. As a guard cautiously pushes open the bedroom door, Nameless quietly summons a radiant dagger from his inventory. The instant the sentry steps across the threshold, our ruthless speedrunner strikes from above with terrifying precision. A massive critical prompt flashes as the guard's health bar vaporizes instantly, leaving behind nothing but blue particles. With the first guard erased without a sound, another armored figure steps into the doorway. Rather than panicking, our cocky swordmaster flashes a sly grin, completely in his element. He reminds his stream that a lightweight dagger is the ultimate weapon for clean execution. Firmly gripping his blade, our lethal assassin prepares to take down his next target in a single swift blow.